Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Cardinal Stadium on the campus of the Catholic University of America for the Week 1 matchup between the DC Current and the defending MLU champions, the Boston Whitecaps. I'm Jeff Poster alongside Dusty Rhodes. So glad you could be joining us here on our MLU live stream for tonight's very windy matchup here at Cardinal Stadium. Boston, of course, coming in as the defending champs. They were 7-3 last year, defeated the Seattle Rainmakers in the championship down in Philadelphia, and the DC Current kind of rebuilding here, Dusty. 5-5 last year, just missed the playoffs for the first time, and really a whole new team kind of for them.
Yeah, and it'll be our first look here at a number of the new players for the Current, as well as they're trying out some new strategies on offense and defense. They're going to be mixing some things up. Based on last year and based on what they've done in the past, I fully expect them to be out there competing athletically with all of the teams they play against this season, and the Whitecaps present a perfect challenge to start the season. It's a perfect way to measure yourself against the best of what we have in the league so far.
Well, we've definitely seen both of these teams have had some thrilling games, especially right here at Cardinal Stadium. Going back last season, Week 1, it was a double overtime game. Boston really kind of secured their playoff spot here towards the end of last season in June, and it should be a thrilling game here to watch. Let's take a look at a couple of the players here on each team that we expect should have big games. At least we've been told leading up to the season. These are the guys to watch. Let's take a look here for the Whitecaps. First, you got Tyler Chan. He was a big key cog in their offense last year and might even be more so this year.
Yeah, last year he sort of had the luxury of playing with a couple other excellent offensive players with Jeff Graham and Josh Marquette. Without them this year, he's going to be relied on to be more of a key cog in their offense as opposed to a supplementary cog. But look at the goals and assists that he put up last year. He was excellent as compared to all of the other rookies last year. And it's just, what are they going to do with all of that space for him? Are they going to use him as a primary cutter, a secondary cutter? It's just a matter of how rather than what specifically they're going to do.
Plus, they get him for the whole season this year.
Yeah.
If you remember, we were down here last season. Boston opened up at Philly on the first Saturday night and then came to DC on Sunday, and Chan was not on that trip with the Whitecaps. He didn't come in until Week 3, so full season Tyler Chan, possibly an MVP type of year maybe.
But he also won't be a secret to all of the other teams in the league. They're familiar with him. They won't get caught off guard by his speed right away, and they're used to him throwing assists as well. Every time that they gave him free unders, he took advantage of the space deep to other receivers as well. So I'm excited to see what he brings to the Whitecaps this year.
As the Whitecaps just took the field, let's take a look on the DC side of the disc. They've got one of their veterans that returned this year, one of the few veterans that returned this year. Delrico Johnson might be on the offensive side of the disc, primarily a defensive guy, but should be explosive for the Current.
Yeah, and when they've gotten turns over the last handful of years, he's been useful on the offensive side as well. He distributes the disc well when he does get it. He moves downfield, gets separation from the person covering him. But the key for DC this year is they're going to have to figure out where to put all of their players. So with the loss of some of their players from last year, they have to move people around from defense to offense. And it looks like going into this first game, they're going to have about 3 separate lines to rotate through, one primarily offense and 2 primarily defense. But going forward through the game, I expect to see a lot of flexibility from the top side of their roster to the bottom of their roster, trying to figure out exactly how they're going to be put together this year. As far as Delrico, we expect good things from him on offense, but even when he's on the offensive line, look for that big play on defense if they turn it over. Look for him to make that big block to get his team back in the game, to give them another shot at getting a hold.
So we talked a little bit right there, Dusty, about keys for DC. Let's take a look at the keys to the game. First off, let's make note, it's 39 degrees out there, and it's very windy. There's a chance of rain, potentially even snow in the forecast, which would be a first for the MLU. It should be interesting. But let's take Boston here, keys to the game. What do they need to do to win this one tonight?
Well, it's a constant refrain with Boston is they think of themselves and they have a lot of talent. So from the top of their roster to the bottom of the roster, it's not just the skill that they play with, it's the awareness that they play with. So putting those new players into their spots instead of like rebuilding from the ground up, that's their strength right now. Focusing on DC, they have to make sure that they don't look ahead too much to the game that they have tomorrow against Philadelphia. And as far as growing pains, it's just a matter of time before they put everything together this season. Are they going to be excellent coming out of the gate, or are they going to struggle coming out of the gate? By the midpoint of the season, I expect to see a lot from Boston. But right now, are they going to start off with a win, or are they going to start off with a loss to start the season?
This is a big weekend for Boston as well as Philadelphia, who's also playing 2 games this week. But let's focus now on DC. You talked a little bit about what they have to do, especially from Delrico's standpoint as a veteran, but they've got some other keys that they need to take care of in this one to get the win.
DC's calling card for all of the years in the league is their defense. And not just their defense on the road, but their defense at home. That's why they have to respect the dojo. They have to come here and defend this turf the way they have over the past 3 seasons. So they have to be out there making plays on defense. They have to be respecting the disc enough that they score and convert some of those break opportunities. And it's another thing for them to make sure that their young players, as well as their old and veteran players, trust their coach. What's gotten them as far as they've been, as far as they've gone this far in the league, is trusting their coach Kevin and their coach Will to lead them to where they're playing. And now they have Will as their head coach instead of co-coaches with Kevin, and has brought on 2 new assistants in Jacob Nuxall and Samantha McClellan, and just trusting that Will trusts them and getting that trust on down through the organization, and knowing that the coaches are there to help, to build forward, and just trusting in their vision, essentially.
You just mentioned the coaching staff there for DC. It's kind of new. I mean, Will's been the defensive mind here in the past, but now he's the head coach overseeing everything. Boston returns their same 3 guys, Sam Rosenthal, Tom Matthews, and Mike Miller, who's gone back and forth, player, coach, and here he is again, once in as assistant coach. So how much do you think that factors in? Do you think there may be some jitterbugs there for Coach Smolinski in his first game as the head coach?
I'm certain there are going to be some, but I'm a little more concerned about the assistants on his side. Like, what are their responsibilities during the game? Are they going to get a little flustered by the format or the speed of play or anything like that? It's one thing to do club, and it's a different thing to do MLU, where there are external officials taking a little bit more control over timing, over what we do on stoppages and things like that. And how they respond is going to be telling in this game, but it's a starting point. That's the thing that DC has been talking about as a group the whole time, is that we're looking forward to what comes after this point.
Well, we got this game set up here today. Last year, it was pretty tight tail between these 2 teams, as they've kind of developed a bit of a rivalry over the first 3 years in the league. They've matched up in the Eastern Conference Finals the first 2 seasons. DC just missed, but you go back to last season, week 1, it was the second game for Boston. DC's first went to double OT, and of course we remember how that one ended with Ben Fleming getting the amazing layout D, and DC goes on to score right after. Boston was getting the last laugh, though, afterwards on May 9th. At Boston, they defeated the current 21-16, as Hormel Stadium for Boston has just been a huge factor for them. They've had difficulties on the road the last couple of years trying to get wins, and then they closed out the season, and it was really a moral victory for them down here on June 13th. They get the 18-17 win. Former current Alan Kolick nearly had that last-second huck to Jeff Wodach, which would have sent the game into overtime once again, and it fell just short. But this has been a tough place for Boston to win. We saw Respect the Dojo. That's the nickname here at Catholic University for the current, and we'll see if Boston can travel well.
And I think, as we've been discussing, the wind today and the temperature today are going to play a key thing. We see some garbage cans kind of moving here in the stands. There are things that, like, people's glasses and mugs and things are moving around. You can see all the hair and things in the background. It's going to be telling today to see which team can understand how to use the wind to their advantage as opposed to as their opponent. You already have another team to play against. You have to find a way to tame the wind and use it.
Well, both coaches we talked to before the game had their own take on the wind. While head coach Sam Rosenthal, he loves it. He thinks Boston loves it. He looks forward. I don't know if he loves it to this degree necessarily, but he generally likes when Boston gets an opportunity to play against opponents in crappy weather, because he thinks they know how to deal with it better than others. And Coach Smolinski, on the other hand, he is like, look, both teams are going to playing against. This is the third team on the field will be the wind. So it's going to be a huge factor here tonight. You can see it moving left to right across your screen. Should be interesting. Could be a very low-scoring game as a result. I imagine a lot of discs will just hang up in the air.
Well, but it could turn out the other way as well. Those discs that float and hang and get tipped can be caught as well. They don't necessarily end up falling to the turf or being intercepted. And just if you get a run of plays that go one team's direction, then you can get either a higher scoring game forced. It just sort of like builds upon itself. Or you can get a situation where a team starts to build a little bit of a lead, and then as soon as they start building that lead, they really clamp it down on the other team. They know the other team has to play a little bit faster, has to look a little bit deep, take riskier shots. And once you're in that scenario, you can extend a big lead. So I would expect this to either be a mess and sort of be very even and back and forth, maybe one goal lead here, one goal lead there, or one of these two teams is going to get an early lead and just stake that advantage and just lord it over the other team basically the whole time. As far as you mentioned snow, it was snowing earlier in D.C. today
right.
already. So this would be our second snow flurry of the day. This is probably the coldest MLU game that I've been at so far.
Yeah, definitely. Right now we've got the flip going on here at midfield. The captains, different sets of captains for both teams this year. Kevin Moldenhauer, as we mentioned, returning to the playing role as a player. He is a captain along with Eric Salmi, one of their returning D-line guys. Should see some time on the offense again as the Current kind of figure themselves out here in the early goings. And for Boston, it's Christian Foster, last year's Defensive Player of the Year. Jake Taylor, who's a 4-year veteran now with the Whitecaps, has been named a captain. And the return of John Hirschberger, who was supposed to be a captain last season and then about 3 days before the season injured his shoulder and missed the entire year.
I remember that now.
Good to see him back out on the field.
Yeah, at this point, it's your captains are sort of setting the tone for your team in a sense. They're your league-wide representatives. They're your representatives to the fans. And you can sort of see what DC Current is doing with their choice of two veterans in Salmi and Moldenhauer. It's a matter of showing the younger players that this is how you comport yourselves, this is how we approach the game, and you have to trust in what we've had before, and we will trust in you in the same way.
So those captains right now meeting with the referees. Let's meet the referees. We've got Carl Nelson, Kai Hudek, Bradley Tinney, Andrew Wynn, and our new head of all refereeing this season, Steve Kreider, taking over that role from Jamie Rhodes. Someone
Indeed.
you're very familiar
Indeed.
with. Jamie still will be a ref for up in Boston this season, but just stepping down as a head ref, and Steve getting a well-deserved promotion there.
Yeah, I've had the fortunate bit of playing with him in some spring league and some fall league. I can guarantee you that he knows the rules. He's corrected a number of errors that we've had in our games over time. And I'm familiar with some of the rest of this officiating crew from the last years with the MLU.
Yep.
I expect them to be fully in control of this game. Although I think we're going to have some unexpected collisions and things like that as a result of the disc bouncing around a little bit. So I think they may have the work cut out for them at a couple certain points. As well as keep an eye out for when the discs fly off the field or roll off the field. We should have some discs around the outside here that you can pick up and get play started. But part of that responsibility is the refs, part is the players, and there could be some sort of moments where we don't get started at when we think we should, so the defense will get an advantage, or the offense gets an unexpected advantage from a disc being somewhere that they didn't think. So a lot of things that go into play in a wide open space like this when you're playing in the wind.
And if you have not kept up to date here with the news of the league during the offseason, there are a couple of new rule changes here as we approach year number 4. Each team will be given an extra timeout, which was as a result of the midfield pull rule that was instituted last year. That changes a little bit too in regards to the overtime. The travels and offensive fouls will no longer result in turnovers. So some new things to watch out for, and the referees to watch out for too. And maybe we'll see a result of some of those tonight.
I gotta tell you, I'm not particularly excited about this travels not being turnovers thing. I think that's an error on the whole, but I think that's an error on the whole for most levels of Ultimate. I'd like to see more stringent travel calls and more repercussions for players who haven't learned their fundamentals yet. The reason you're traveling is because you don't know how to throw the disc yet, or you're being pressed to a point where you're trying to overextend. And I think those should be turnovers. I think those should be game-changing plays.
So DC has taken the field. Boston getting psyched in their huddle right now. You see the black and white jerseys of the Current. Basically the same uniforms as last year. A couple little tweaks. The new sponsor on the front is the Dewhurst Group, a geothermal exploration and development company. It's part of the family of their own operations manager. Matt Dewhurst does a fantastic job here with running the Current. And Boston now taking the field in their basically the same uniforms, the white tops with the blue numbers and trim. DC in the black tops with the white numbers. We had that numbers added on the shorts there as well.
I was going to say, there is one key difference with all these jerseys. The numbers on the back this year, much bigger, much easier to read. The names are brighter. And as you mentioned, there's also numbers on the shorts right now. That helps a little identification-wise as well, because the players aren't always facing the camera, aren't always facing the ref, and aren't always able to be seen in the photographs either.
So that's Aaron Richards, the rookie here for the Current.
He's been at tryouts for a number of years here. I'm excited that he's finally made it up to the team.
And he will pull left to right as the lights are on here at Cardinal Stadium. And we are underway in week 1 between the Whitecaps and the Currents. And disc is down, and Boston will start things off. And he gets one up to Jake Taylor.
And as you can see, they're going upwind here, so it's going to be a little tough.
And we get our first turn.
The hand block from Eric Miner there.
And That'll be Richards who picks it up. Richards looking to send this one. It's going to float, and it's going to float out the back. So already some mistakes.
He got a little anxious there, throwing to the very first cut that he saw instead of trusting his offense a little bit. There were two players running to sort of this back corner, and that's the way the wind's blowing. Putting up an outside-in flick there is a difficult choice. It's not impossible. He's just rushing a little.
Taylor will pick it up and start things off here for the Whitecaps, and he immediately throws a pick right to Richards, who's been very involved here in the first couple of seconds.
He's getting tight here.
Swings it around. That's Minor. Minor, a veteran of 4 years here for the Current. This one pops up in the air. It's anyone's disc, and it's ripped down by Chan.
And those are the sorts of throws that we can expect to see bounce up. The lower you start with your throw and the higher you try to make it go.
First huck hangs and goes off the hand of Hirschberger.
It's a pretty decent look there. Upwind. It did hit the player in his hand, but couldn't really reel it in.
Jack Field makes the catch, gets it back to Richards. Richards will try a hammer here. It's up in the air, popped up, and on the second attempt there, coming over, Andrew Gravender.
It was Moldenhauer on the hammer there, now reset back to him.
He's got it. Jay Clark, one of the new Whitecaps, another Tufts alum. And Moldenhauer gets the first assist into Jack Field. And the Current take the early 1-0 lead at 8:31.
It was a good first score for them. The thing that comes out of that point most clearly is that it's going to be tough sledding going upwind for both of these teams. Those low backhands that most players are used to using to get around the mark, the low flicks that people are used to using to get inside the mark, those are all subject to bouncing up a lot here. And as you can see, players like Eric Minor and anyone else who has a really long wingspan, those are the worst players to be marked by in this weather because they can just sort of get their arms and limbs out there in your way and make your throws more and more difficult. DC's got their first break. They got their first DCD.
Yeah.
They maybe have got their second and third DCD there in the first point.
Got to feel good to come out and get a break right away. That event's the defending champs, too. So Jack Field gets the first score. Not a bad way to start off his MLU career.
And that's certainly not the first high wind score that Moldenhauer has thrown in his career. That was a good person to get the disc to eventually.
Very short pull into the wind. So Boston will take some favorable field position out of this. Still rolling out with the football lines there. It's going to hang up right around the 30-yard line, finally knocked down by Gabe Webster.
I think that the team that does the best job with rollers, pinning teams to the sideline where they want to be as opposed to where they end up throwing to will have the best advantage.
Alex Cooper with the immediate hammer, throwing it in. It's bobbled by Christian Foster.
Should have been a catch.
It should have been, right
Simply
on his
should have been
hands.
a catch.
Cooper returning to the Whitecaps after taking a year off and getting married last season. Sure, they're happy to have him back.
Looks like we got Griezmann here with the disc.
DC looking to swing it. Now send one into a 50-50 kind of disc, and no one's going to get it.
50-50, either a Callahan or a near completion. Turns into a throw at the sideline.
Chip Cobb, the intended target, another former Current player, won the title here with the Current in 2014, back here in 2016. And Boston will toss it in. Piers McNaughton with the score. And Cooper gets the assist. So, as I said, they got to be glad to have Alex Cooper back. And Piers McNaughton, another guy who missed some time last year due to injury and out there from day one.
It was pretty calm work there once they got into the end zone. And the key for Boston during that whole point was keeping it all the way down here. DC didn't show any ability once they were on offense to move the disc upfield, either through hucks or through handler motion or undercuts or whatever. It's a little early yet, but thus far, Boston has looked more clear of purpose on offense. You saw that they immediately went to a hammer to an open player in the end zone. You saw that they took one throw to get into the end zone the next time. Maybe the mark should have dropped off a little bit on the to make it a little more difficult to cut down the throwing angle a little bit, but right now we're playing the early part. DC's got one break to start, Boston's got one O-point to start, and now we're going to see if DC can hold going downwind as well.
Christian Foster getting his line set to pull, taking his new captain's role here. Seriously, it looks like. A former defensive player of the year or I should say reigning, not former, but
right.
He's a defensive player of the year until someone else is picked, and he's going to go for that spin pull that we saw so much last season on the midfield that worked so well for him.
Certainly a better pull than DC's pull just before that.
Managed to at least get it halfway down the field. That's Lloyd Blake. Blake, one of the guys we expected to have a lot of touches here for DC. Gets it over to Norbum.
Expect Zach Norbom to also have a lot of touches this year for DC. You can see him working those little handler cuts there.
Nice put by Blake up to Freund there. Supposedly their next big star here in DC, but Will Smolinski says he's got some work to do, and Freund, he gets that one. Wow. What a catch there by the young 18-year-old Joe Freund. That one was maybe, what, a centimeter off the grass?
And he's got to reach all the way down there to get it, but that's the whole reason they give you those long arms when you get tall, too. Delivering the disc up there to a kind of a tight spot. The thrower would hope to put that a little bit flatter, make it a little easier catch, but that was a pretty easy hold for DC. Not too much pressure from Boston, and now Boston will get another chance to hold going downwind.
Norbom gets the assist. He was a guy that, another young player, but came on towards the end of the season last year for DC, especially in that last game they had against New York when they were pretty much they were eliminated at that point. But you kind of got to see maybe a little bit of their future there. Norbom, guys like Norbom and Delrico Johnson really took a focal point there.
Yeah, it was a good opportunity for them late in the season to give that opportunity to their players so that they're a little more prepared this coming year. It'll be the first team to make the change a little bit, defensively or offensively here, that'll have the early advantage. This is a much better pull from DC.
Aaron Richards, this one hangs up in the air a little bit too. Gets past the midfield mark, allows DC to get their defense set. And Cooper will start things off and immediately goes to that hammer again. Looks like it's going to fall short. And the D is made.
They're going to call the foul on
Davis.
him, so he's going to get the extra 10 yards here. He's still going to have the disc in his hand. Didn't really look like he wanted it that much.
Antoine Davis out of Virginia Tech with the disc now after the D. Trying to get around Rob Baker. Baker, as this one's launched into the air, they're looking for Tim Jackson downfield. Second chance, and Minor reaches up and grabs it with the right hand.
Excellent work by Minor.
Will look to put it into the end zone,
there
and
he
does. And that's Davis with the bookends.
That was a good play there by Davis going from one end to the other, but the confidence and calmness that DC had working up the field in order to get that break is going to give them a 2-goal advantage here, and that's the first shift in momentum we really see.
Yeah.
Sure, they've got 2 breaks already, but one was an upwind break on a very windy day. That almost counts extra. What we saw there was a willingness to look deep and a willingness to track that disc after it was tapped. We've also seen DC use a lot of their left-handed players in key handling roles near the disc. I think that'll play out a lot over the course of this game with all the extra wind.
Well, DC with a lot of question marks coming into the season with the stars that they lost from previous years, but so far here in the first not even 4 minutes, seem to be doing just fine.
I got to tell you, Boston didn't look quite ready for that attacking nature from DC's D-line there. Their defense for their O-line was a little like sitting back a little bit, waiting to see what DC was going to do. And it looked like DC was like, well, we're going to put it downfield and see what you're going to do. And sometimes when you're on offense, you get that advantage of first moving.
First time we've seen second time really, besides the opening one, a pull with the win from Chip Cobb.
Got down there pretty well. Could use a little more hang, but it's the first one for him.
Foster will let this one rip, and it's trying to catch up to it for Boston. Nick Roberts.
It was a good look.
Excuse me, Carter Thalen.
It was a good look with enough pace on it. And I think if the defender wasn't there, he would have been able to make one play on that disc.
DC looking for another break. Michael Moses swings it over to Griezmann.
Over to Cobb.
Was low, and this one will let loose. Foster trying to track it down for Boston, and he gets a hand on it. A little bit of a collision there with Moses at the end, but no foul called.
It's a good chase by the defense there. It's a good, clean D. Got in front, got there early. It's also a healthy look for DC to take that one, because now they've at least pushed Boston all the way back to the end zone, so they have a full 80 yards to go.
Boston, their horizontal stack there, looking to get it to Sandy Hartwiger. And it floats over his head. And DC in some pretty good position here. And that one bounces right off the body, I believe, of Cobb. No,
it was
Webster. When they get the hoods up there, it makes it tough to tell.
You got to protect your precious ears, you know. You want to be able to hear
right.
later in your life.
That's right.
The disc came in really hot. I mean, directly into his core area, but it came in quick. That's the effect of the wind when you're throwing with it down here.
Austin, a little more patient this time. Foster and Little Back handling Hartwigger.
DC still in a zone here. It's kind of like a 2-3-2, but with some sort of aggressive looks from the second set of 2. They're pinching in.
And now Little will let one rip downfield. This is one of those 50-50 discs that hangs up. It's tipped, and Boston, Jay Clark in the back, the trailer, catches it, and then he makes the cut into the end zone for the score, and Boston gets one back as Jay Clark had a Tufts connects with, or I should say, connected on a throw from Nick Thompson.
So it was a critical error there on the DCD's part. You can't just bat at that disc. You have to catch it, confirm your block, and move directly to offense. You have to get it to your next player instead of just trying to attack the disc and bat at it. You have to kind of treat it like it's your friend. Do you want it to be in your hands so that your team is in charge and so that you are the guy holding the talking stick, so to speak?
We just saw Nick Thompson make that throw. Boston got a lot of moving pieces coming over to their team this year. Players from other MLU cities. Thompson and Andrew Hooker, who's right there in the middle of the line. You see, both came over from the San Francisco Dogfish. Rob Baker, another guy who played with the Rumble back in 2013, still holds the record for most blocks in a season.
I really enjoyed watching him play defense that year. That was they had a lot of gambles on good deep pulls and were aggressive early on in points, and he was a large part of that.
They also have Frederick Braz, not active tonight, formerly of the Philadelphia Spinners, on this team as well. So they got a lot of kind of free agent pickups here throughout the league.
Yeah. It might be able to bring in some new ideas from there, but they certainly bring in experience and folks who are already used to the season, who are already used to the way it's reffed and all of that.
So we've got 4:49 left to go here in the first quarter. 3-2 the score. DC on top of Boston.
And that pull flew out the back. It didn't hop out the back. That's why they're bringing it all the way up here. If it had actually landed, they would have been much further back in the end zone.
Norbum sends one deep. All the way alone downfield is Khalifa. And Boston gets over there.
It was a good look from Norbum, and he's shown that they can throw good hucks upwind.
Cooper liking the wind in his favor, connecting all the way with Misha Herskew.
It's owner of Jeff Graham's old number.
That's right, and then he throws it away, something that Jeff Graham might not have done. He's got to earn that 21 there. Justin Solis comes over and knocks it down for the Current.
Even with a 98 or 96% completion rate, you got to throw some turnovers. It's just a matter of which ones.
DC connecting with Salmi. Salmi will send it over to Freund.
It's using the wind well there to throw upwind a little bit with a little bit of blade. That's nice touch on that flick from Salmi.
Salmi, DC swinging it still, looking to come back to the near side here.
Still taking advantage of their lefties.
This time it's Khalifa. Drops it back. Norbum again. Norbum. This one will float a little bit. It's got a play for Boston, and they take it away. Tanner Hulkyard, a guy that we were kind of told to watch out for here for the Whitecaps.
But again, DC had the inside spot there and really should have held onto the disc.
Katz throws a low one. A sliding grab not there for...
That was rushed.
Sean Doherty.
That throw from Katz was rushed severely to the outside to a player who's running very fast. It doesn't leave you much room for error. That's one of the things that you have to do when you play in the wind, is recognize that a player cutting directly across the field at a high rate of speed, not really a lot of margin.
Yeah, looks like we have a call downfield on a foul. So
Sure,
10 yards.
Yeah, I can't tell exactly where that foul happened, but DC's going to maintain possession here. They're getting a little tied into their dump sets, though.
And get it back to Norbum. Nice one-handed reaching out grab. Norbum swings it into Ferraro.
As you might expect, Boston, for the most part, is sitting underneath the DC cutters, and they haven't chosen the right spot to take a shot.
Blake will let one rip, and the wind took care of that one almost immediately, and Doherty just comes over and applies the little tag to it, knock it down.
Yeah, he didn't deliver near as much power on that pass as Norbum had in the upwind just before.
Cooper continues to launch the hammers, and DC again comes over, takes it away. He was trying to get to Herskew downfield.
The thing with throwing that downwind hammer is it's very unlikely that you're going to throw a short turnover because it goes over everything in the middle. So it's a good tactical choice on one level.
Freund reaches up, grabs that one, swings it over to Khalifa. Khalifa on the near side here. Boston forcing away. Salmi to the open side. And Freund with a nice grab.
Using that extra height, that's good.
He'll let it rip downfield for Solis. Solis reels it in. He's got a man all alone in Khalifa. He's just got to track it down, and he does. Kyle Khalifa, out of the University of Mary Washington, the Arlington, Virginia native, gets the Current their 4th score of the night as they double up on Boston once again.
It was a key point for DC to work their way up. Their offensive motion there and spacing was really tight, especially when they were down on this close sideline. They're running kind of a vert stack there, and it left their isolated cutter with a very, very small area to cut in, and it left their recess with a very small area to work in. That's okay so long as you can work your way out of it, because it draws all of the defense into one area. And as you saw, once they broke out of that area and got on a run up the field, it was much easier, and there was a lot more space for them to eventually get that open throw for a goal after an open huck was caught down. But it was really tight there on the sideline. They would be well advised to not get stuck too tight to the sideline with a vertical stack really tight to the sideline as well.
Yeah, very good job, DC, using both sides of the field, which
eventually.
Yeah. Exactly. Not an easy task with the wind. Sometimes you're going to favor that side that you have an easier time throwing to, I would imagine.
Yeah, right now, DC looks very comfortable in the wind. So I don't think it's affecting them negatively too much.
Another downwind pull, picked up by Taylor, right up to Little. Little sends it over. That's for Boston. Thompson. And some contact against DC as Tim Jackson came in.
Boston still here using their 6-person downfield vertical stack.
Low throw, nicely dug out there by Foster. Foster will send it in. It's tipped, and it's tipped right in the hands of a DC defender.
A lot of tips going that way. We're going to have to start seeing some catches here, or we'll get a bunch more deflections into players' hands on the opposing team.
Jack Field getting the tip. Send it over. Minor got it up to Davis. Quickly over to Richards. And this one, Boston with a hand block, the veteran Hartwiger.
On Moldenhauer there, it looked like he got his foot up in the throwing lane.
41 years old, the rookie for Boston, Sandy Hartwiger.
He's been a mainstay in the club scene for years, though.
Boston dumps it back to Taylor, and what a grab there for Boston. Carter Thalen laying out.
You can see the mark from Eric Minor putting the pressure on there to get them to extend all the way out.
And Matt Little connects with Nick Thompson. It's his first goal in a Boston uniform.
It's a big break there for Boston before this quarter runs out. Now they're left with 28 seconds to score for DC in a 4-3 game. It's an opportunity to see how both these teams are prepared to use the end of quarter game that we talked about so much last year. The last person to score in every quarter has an advantage. Whether you're scoring last on defense or scoring last on offense, if you get the last score, you have an advantage going into the next quarter. And DC's got a tough task going upwind to score here with 30 seconds left, 28 to be precise.
A definite swing a lot of times can really just, especially at the end of half times too, we've seen it can definitely set the tone for the upcoming half. But still 28 seconds, like you said, Dusty, here in the first quarter. 4-3, DC on top of Boston.
That would be if they score in 28 seconds, that'd be the second fastest goal this quarter. So I'm not sure they're going to be able to do it, but that's why we play, right?
Anything is possible. That's why we play the games.
It's a nice big pull from Foster, though. I don't think they'll be catching that one. They'll play it on the bounce.
The bounce gets past one and is picked up by Salmi. Blake in control.
Side stack to Gibson. That's a pretty money play that they're going to use.
First touch we've seen for Dom Gibson. Into Blake again. Blake's got Delrico Johnson downfield, who we have not seen much of tonight.
Boston was really aggressively pushing the lane there. That was a lucky find by Lloyd Blake with that hammer. You need one throw to a goal here.
Here's Rico right on the goal line, trying to put it in, and he does. Blake with 2 seconds left. The veterans that time for the Current, Lloyd Blake and Delrico Johnson.
That was a key hold for them. They worked all the way up there, 26 seconds, so there's 2 seconds left on the clock for Boston. It was it was a tough question posed by Boston, saying, can you do this in 28 seconds? They said, not only can we do it in 28 seconds, we can do it in 26. So we could have scored earlier, we could have waited a little bit longer, but now getting that in and most likely preventing Boston from being able to get even a shot to the end zone here, first quarter is in DC's hands. This is exactly the way they needed to come out and show the early strength to Boston.
Does Boston even make a throw here with
Oh,
the
they
2
have, yeah.
seconds?
They're going to get
into the wind.
They're going to get it to somebody. It's just a matter of who it's going to be to try to get that throw off. I'd imagine it'd be Foster trying to get that backhand off to throw sort of an inside out into the wind and have it sit back across the field. That's the way that we've been getting the most distance on these throws so far. The key is trying to get him an open look, though. Get him an unmarked throw.
So we'll see 2 seconds what Boston can do. This one's going to roll out of bounds.
That's not the best play there for DC.
Boston will get favorable field position and a chance to get their guys downfield.
Right, so the clock starts when Boston touches it. So you'd want to roll it inbounds at them, so they have to reach down, stop it, and then pick it up, or try to reach down and pick it up, or something along those lines.
We'll see the 4 Boston cutters already start to head downfield, and now Boston gets the center of the disc as well.
Well, what he's going to do here is there are 2 shorter plays, well, no, it looks like it's just going to be a one-throw go. Yeah, that's going to be tough.
Through. Oh, we got a foul.
I mean, if you get the foul, they should get time back here on the clock. You should get 10 seconds back.
Yeah.
So that's like pretty much the worst thing DC could have done. Because instead of 2 seconds, they now have 10 seconds.
They give them time.
Like the double team can't be fouling him. Now they've still set up. Now they're doing a better job of making sure they're not touching him. But I'm not sure why it took them that long to think that way. They've got an open player here down on the sideline. It looks like Taylor will probably get the disc here out of the double team. Yeah, because he's still down here on the backhand side.
So we're still just waiting for the clock to be reset here. But gives Boston an opportunity to make sure they get the right look.
Well, it also looks like DC gets a chance to make sure they have the players where they want them, yeah.
They're leaving Jake Taylor here open on the near side. This will allow Boston a couple of throws, and there it is.
It's a little early.
Little puts it up. It'll hang. It's not going to be deep enough for a score anyway.
That was the tip. Nobody was playing the tip.
There it is.
Oh, there was one more chance. We had 6 Boston players right in there near the disc, and nobody was there for the tip. That was their chance. They got it into the end zone. If you had told me 2 seconds to get it in the end zone, I would have said no way.
So that's the way the first quarter comes to a close with the Current on top of the Whitecaps 5-3. They opened up the game with a break, and they get a D at the end of the first quarter, despite giving Boston a chance there at the end, but they hang on.
Yeah, it was a good start. I'm happy to see that DC is up to the task to start with, and we'll see what Boston has here coming out into the second quarter.
Well, as you can see, the jerseys being worn by these teams are made possible by Canterbury. Canterbury, the official apparel supplier to Major League Ultimate. Dress like a pro. Visit www.canterburyus.com, the destination for all your team's custom uniforms and athletic apparel needs. Canterbury, proud partner of Major League Ultimate, committed to the game. Do you have a team trip or a corporate outing coming up? If so, charter a private bus, a minibus, or a party bus from busrental.com, a U.S. Coachways company. Bus travel, one of the safest, greenest, and most affordable ways to get your group to an event. If you're going with a group, trust busrental.com. Enter coupon code MLUBUS and get additional savings and VIP treatment.
So do you think the party bus is actually a different type of bus, or is it just a bus?
I think it can be.
Does it come with like a Rob Gronkowski sort of in it, ready to make the party happen?
That's a big party. That's a big commitment.
You got to put that on a cruise,
kind of party
right?
You're looking for exactly. He did. He had the cruise to Gronk Island.
Well, I mean, the first year for the championship, there was a bus that came up from D.C.
That's right.
With way too many beverages on it, as I recall, because some of the folks who were coming off of that bus would not have been served if they had walked into a reputable establishment. However, they were walking into a championship game, which is not a reputable establishment. You're supposed to be yelling things.
Well, at least they were taking the bus, right? And they were.
That's precisely the whole point.
Busrental.com, you know,
You got
a safe way to travel.
You got to take care of everybody. You don't want to be driving after that. That's ridiculous.
We took the bus rental right down here today. It was a very smooth ride, along with the Whitecaps, who seem to be molding together quite well. They've had both teams, I guess the whole league really, seems they've had more chance to practice this season before the first game. About 4 or 5 practices, talking to Sam Rosenthal before, that they were able to get in. And I think that's a huge factor here. A lot of teams hadn't really had much time to practice before opening weekends in the past.
Yeah, and a part of that is also the coaches are learning and the organizations are learning too. So you have that institutional memory. So there are things that you've done wrong before that you naturally know how not to do wrong the second time. And then you realize which things you can teach people in small-sided practices, small-sided scrimmages, and which sort of things that you kind of have to wait till the season to actually impress upon folks. And usually they get time to work with refs too. That's a big thing that you want to do before the season. Is get some of the refs in to actually call your games. It's actually the same thing as true in club. One of the best things you can do for your team is bring in observers if you expect to play in observed games and just see how they actually call your game for you. Sadly, you have to pay people for stuff like that. You pay them for their time. Most of us don't work for free.
There's always a catch, Dusty.
Yeah.
There's always some sort of catch.
The catch being we want people who do work to have capital to spend, correct?
To have some sort of earnings and reward for that work.
And then they reinvest it back into the economy. It's a beautiful thing.
It'd go round and round like a circle. It works. It works, people.
So what are you expecting to see here in the second quarter? Anything specific? You think any of these teams what do you think, is Boston going to come back in this one?
Speaking to both coaches, and I would think so, given their history and their own talent levels. But both coaches expected a feeling out process, not even just the new faces on each team, but feeling out the wind and knowing what to do with it. So I hope we get a comeback. We don't always like a nice tight game. We don't like to see blowouts.
Well, I don't remember Boston being on the wrong side of a blowout yet, really.
No.
Maybe they lost by 3 or 4 once or twice to DC probably. But on the whole, they're not the sort of team to just throw in the towel.
Right. It's that mentality up
But it's
there.
just a matter of does DC have a second trick up their sleeves? Do they have something else that they can do to make this a 6-3 lead, a 7-3 lead? Because once you're at that point, Ultimate is a very difficult game to play from that far behind.
Yeah, and you've seen teams historically who are kind of underdogs coming into it, and they might show all their tricks up their sleeve right away, and then that team, as Boston should be a favorite here this season, a defending champ, still the champions until someone knocks them off. You got to think they'll be ready for anything, and if a team that might be an underdog, maybe you just got to bide your time and wait it out.
It's interesting, the upwind strategies that each team is using. Both teams are looking deep when they think that they have somebody going or they think they have a defender playing under a little too much. But I got to tell you, DC looks more comfortable with the idea of turning the disc over going upwind. Boston looks a little hesitant to trust their throws quite as much going upwind and trust that they'll be able to get the disc back again. Their downwind offense seems even overconfident to a fault with Boston, where they're throwing hammers right away.
A lot of hammers, yeah.
Yeah, and that's not a bad look, but you don't want to go to the well over and over and over again. You need your plan B to work as well, your dominant strategy and your second level strategy.
Pretty good pull there from Tanner Hulkyard.
We sure he didn't catch that and put it down?
It was very close. If you're just joining us, it's 5-3 here in the second quarter. Jeff Poster, Dusty Rhodes on the call here in week 1. Whitecaps and Current, as that one's bobbled and then grabbed by Salmi. Norbum.
It's a really long stall that Lloyd Blake got there on that last possession. He was in a tight spot.
Blake has it again here. Sends a flick, and that one is grabbed nicely by Khalifa.
Khalifa's been playing pretty well here. Looks very confident when he catches the disc. Some players are a little rattled by the wind. He seems to be pivoting and looking for the things that he would normally.
This one he puts up, and the jump by Norbum was mistimed, and Hulkyard uses his size and reaches up to grab it.
Yeah, he created a lot of space for himself there in order to go up and get it, right? And then it's all about establishing an area for you to jump from.
There's Hooker, the former Dogfish, sends it over to Terry Roth. Roth, another veteran for Whitecaps.
Solid marks here from DC to keep it on this sideline. That's where they want to be.
Ben Katz up to McNaughton. McNaughton's got an open man in Hulkyard and tries to reach out. Disc was behind him with that right hand and couldn't reel it in one-handed.
You like your guys to make that catch, but it's a really tough one.
Salmi sends a bullet downfield. I don't know if, I believe it was Khalifa he was trying to get it to. I don't know if he was ready for it.
Well, I think he might have been trying to throw it really deep here to the second player coming back around the corner, but I'm not sure they were on the same page.
Roth with the first cut, sliding grab there, trying to get around Salmi now. Katz comes over.
Blake's got to put a mark on here where he doesn't get broken back through like he did the last time through.
There's
Nice
another D.
It's a nice run-through block.
That's Solis knocking it away from Rob Baker.
And that's the advantage there of getting the mark on well enough that they can't throw back across the field. The defender knows it's coming to this side, and all he has to do is beat him to the spot.
2 minutes already almost gone in this first point of the second quarter. And Baker picking up right where he left off in 2013, gets his first block of the season.
I got a little tense there when players are running upfield for that up-line pass, and you don't necessarily know that the other player's there. It's always questionable.
Hooker starting things off again. Halkyard, he's got it on the near side here.
Boston's vert stack is almost in their way getting back across the field.
This one floats up into the air, and it's taken away once again.
Solis again, right?
Yes. Blake up to Solis.
So always have to wait for them to turn their backs to see the numbers to be sure. DC's working pretty well. Oh.
This one floated again by Norbum, and McNaughton catches it, but it looks like we have a call before the throw. Halkyard leapt in to try and make a defensive play on Norbum, and see, this costs Boston because DC immediately had thrown a turnover.
A little confusion here from the refs. Norbum's stepping through his mark a lot and trying to throw these low releases. He's got to make sure he keeps his wrist down and keeps the disc flat trying to throw those. They're popping up a little bit as we've noticed.
Well, he's not given the 10 yards. He's right back there.
DC's into more of that vertical stack here.
Nice cut by Salmi. On the
It's good to make sure he got his hands up in front of that.
That's Flores. Back to Blake. One-handed grab. Blake was looking for the flick. There it is. Sends it in. That's Ferraro. That's Norbum.
They just need to show patience. Yeah.
And there it is. The patience and the score for the Current as Andrew Ferraro out of James Madison gets the goal there for the Current, and it's 6-3 with 6:41 left to go.
Yeah, that was a 3-minute, 20-second point. There was a lot of stretch there, and the fact that the Current were strong enough to maintain for that upwind hold to start the second quarter, that's putting them up at 6-3 over the Whitecaps here. As we talked about before, it's about that team that makes the next turn, that makes the next step in strategy or tactics to take their opponent out of the running a little bit. And DC's in the lead for that right now. This is really going to test Boston's mettle in the first game of the season.
Boston missing a couple of key players that were big factors in their season last year. Sam Kittros Schnell, who came on big, especially in the second half of the season, inactive tonight. Very disappointing is Eric Stevens is inactive. Eric Stevens, now with his fourth year in the Whitecaps, had not missed a game at all in the first 3 years. This is his first game missed, and consequentially will miss tomorrow's game against Philadelphia. Is also absent. Frederick Braz, we said, not active tonight. Sam Richardson also out. Played last year and missed some time due to injury at the end of the season. So Whitecaps, with the largest roster, give up another D to the Current.
And he was setting up that inside lane up through their handler set right from the jump. Little patience here, trusting Moldenhauer.
Moldenhauer, and he sends it in as Antoine Davis gets his second of the night. And who would have guessed, but the Current with a 7-3 lead here over Boston.
And that's a little three-point run going back to the end of the first quarter. They finished that, and Boston didn't manage to score to finish it. So they've gone from 5-3 to 6-3 to 7-3. That's the run we're talking about. Unless something dramatic comes out of Boston for the rest of this game, it's going to require full team effort over the whole of the next 2.5 quarters for them to get back into this. It's a 4-point deficit in the first half.
So DC continuing to gain confidence here in their new young roster over the defending champs.
We still have fans trickling in here to the stadium. I'm surprised at how many people are here, considering the weather and considering how cold it was. I was talking to some folks beforehand, and they had been planning their layering throughout the day during different parts of the afternoon and morning here in DC. We've went through so many temperatures. We got up in the mid 50s, and now we must be it's got to be below 39 by now. Got to be 35 or so.
Sun going away, the lights in full effect here at Cardinal Stadium. Is this pretty decent pull there from going into the wind.
Fortunately, we haven't seen any of that precipitation yet since we've been here.
See Alex Cooper blowing into his hands, trying to keep him warm there as he starts things off to Nick Thompson. And Thompson, he threw that one. He was trying to get it to Clark. Luckily, it finds its way into McNaughton's hands, and Boston's offense is able to keep moving.
It's a very good heads up and awareness by McNaughton. Looks like a defensive foul there in the end zone. Oh, no.
Pick against Boston, so they'll back it up 10 yards. McNaughton with the disc.
Some handsy defense there, too. It was a matter of which one they wanted to call, it looked like.
Cooper trying to get away from his man, get the reset. He's got it.
These Boston cutters are really fast out of the stack. The problem is when they're moving that fast, they're actually more difficult to throw to.
And they say
ruled down.
Edmonds did not get it. He thought he did. And DC will get it back.
DC could do well. Yeah, they're working up that same side there. They need to work it back over to the other side. Put a little more pressure on the D.
Matt Barnhart, who couldn't hold on to that one. So Cooper will pick it up again here for Boston.
I'm expecting a first throw goal look. Okay.
Not there.
little patience. Like to see that.
Swing it over. There's Edmonds. Collects that one cleanly. Or as clean as you can get it in this weather. Katz looking for McNaughton. Shakes him off. Bit of a crowd there as... Oh, no, they did throw it and catch it. Hard to see sometimes, but Alex Cooper gets the score there for Boston, and they finally get one back, make it 7-4.
It was good for them to show patience there. As I was saying, I was expecting them to throw something directly into the end zone after the turn. They stuck with it, ran a little bit of offense, showed some confidence in their throws, just their catches, trusting the system a little bit more than the players. Led them to an easy goal there at the end. The marks so far for DC have been doing a solid job, but they're not quite preventing all of the break looks that they can from Boston. But that's what quality throwers do. It looks like we've got a timeout here for, who do you think called it, Boston or DC?
I missed the call, actually. Timeout, Boston.
There we go, to Boston.
They'll get the midfield pull after this. Remember, they have now 3 timeouts in the game. That's a new rule adjusted this season, as tried to give a timeout back to the teams, as we learned last season that they saved them just for the midfield pulls. And it kind of takes away that opportunity if you get a turn, sub out your offense or your defense one way or the other.
And you want to have just enough times where you can do that, but you don't want to increase the timeout so much that there's too much waiting on the sidelines, there's too much waiting in the stands. You want to keep the flow of the game alive. But as you said, with the advantage of being able to pull from midfield, that's basically each team wants to do that once in each quarter, or wants to do that 2 times per half or something like that. So they want to have one more timeout so that if you have that extra long point, sub in the opposite line and see where you go from there.
So we got 4:55 left to go here in the first half. 7-4 the score. DC on top of Boston.
These midfield pulls, that's the way that Boston can get back in this. Obviously, also catching a Callahan helps.
That's right.
Like at some point when you're behind, you need ways to change the number of points you can score per interaction with the other team. If you get the Callahan and then they get to pull to you, that's like half a break. And chipping away by half a break here and there, that's the way to get back into this. Pinning some deep pulls into the end zone, that'll help a lot as well.
Now we'll see here as they're going to midfield pull into the wind. Christian Foster coming in. He is the guy for Boston to do that. I believe the only time someone was able to catch one of them was Danny Tridiak in the finals, and it knocked him down.
I forgot about that, and I can picture it so clearly in my head.
Right in the gut.
Just kind of accepted all the power and wrapped it.
Right with it.
So we had some folks pulling there during a competition in between in the timeout. We were getting some 60-yard pulls or so. So maybe we need to bring in some pinch pullers for these players.
We might need some future stars right here in the crowd.
Or maybe they're just warmer because they're wearing more layers.
Too. Their arms feel, or wrists feel better, I should say.
I really like the choice here by Boston to take their midfield pull upwind, because it means they should be able to get them all the way back in the end zone and make it a full 100-yard possession.
Which neither team has had to do yet.
And it's not like the throws downwind are easy. They're likely to go far.
Right.
It doesn't mean that they're easy to complete. So putting pressure on them to complete it upfield, and even if they huck it, to actually put full force behind that as opposed to just tossing up an easy one.
And there's Foster trying to roll in. Nice job by Delrico Johnson. He stops it, doesn't let it get by the goal line, but as you said, Dusty, the Current will have to move the length of the field.
Yep, and that's a start.
Freund swings it over to Salmi. Salmi's got Ferraro
There we
with
go.
him, and they throw it away.
They're already over half field here for Boston. That's a critical turnover for Salmi. That's a weakness in an offense that you can't have going through the season.
That was Gibson he was trying to get it to. Taylor picks it up. Thompson. Taylor. And nearly knocks over Tyler Chan, who we've not seen a ton of actively involved. Chan floats it up. Hirschberger uses his size.
It's harder to isolate your best players when it's windy.
And then he tries to throw it into Little with the layout.
Plays like that or why?
And it, a little too much there.
A little too much for Little?
That's
All
right, yeah. All right, we'll go with that. Wasn't even thinking that way.
Whoa.
And Delrico Johnson, he lays out. Can't catch up to that one.
It's excellent effort there from Delrico, but as you can see, the disc just died there. It didn't sit up enough.
Foster, that one sends it over to Hirschberger, and it's knocked away by his number 43 counterpoint, Freund.
Those two plays, the huck downfield and then the block on the undercut, have reversed the field position here for both teams.
Yeah.
Boston had their chance to use the short field, and now they may not get another shot.
Salmi's going to try to float this one up over everybody to Blake, and he does it perfectly. What a rundown and a read by Lloyd Blake, and a throw by Eric Salmi.
Yeah, it's great to be able to throw to a 6'4", 6'5" handler going
Yes.
up blind in the wind, because you can just sort of put it up there for him. There's a lot of space there, and the help defense was pulled far enough away by the set that DC was using, sort of a vertical stack in the end zone. There was enough space. Easy, simple throw. They overcame the error there by Salmi. That's good to know that your teammates have your back. But we have to execute those simple throws so that they're not put in the situation to always have to get your back. And it looks like Boston's calling a timeout here. I'm not sure exactly what the...
Might just be to regroup here,
think?
kind of, and just talk about things. You try to stop the bleeding, break up the momentum here with 3:29 left to go. It's 8-4. Current doubling up Boston on more than one occasion here tonight.
Yeah. So we've got Rosenthal calling out a line over here. We've got most of DC sort of trying to stay warm, trying to figure out what their next strategy is here for the very next point. The rest of the guys on the sideline here they're looking chilly. I mean, we've got Kevin Healy over here, not even playing, like wrapping himself up in as many things as he can. We got some guys trying to hop around here.
It's the game you don't want to play in, but you want to play in at the same time if you're on the sideline.
The worst part about playing in a game like this is the timeouts. It's the times in between points right now.
Yeah, trying to stay loose.
Yeah, because while you're out there running, everything disappears.
Right.
The whole world shrinks into just this frisbee field, just this disc that you're chasing around.
And Boston had their line headed out, and now they've come back.
Yeah, I think that's related to they don't want teams on the field during timeouts, so the referees are told to herd them to the sidelines, make sure they don't go out there too early. That stemmed from a little incident we had a couple years ago where a Philadelphia player wandered into a Boston timeout, and there was a little bit of a to-do about that afterward. We wanted to make sure we control the field a little better and don't lead players into temptation.
Here we go.
I've been thinking about these white gloves for Eric Miner this whole time. I've been trying to decide what I think about them.
Pillsbury Doughboy type of gloves out there. So I guess.
Well, he's got that really big mark, and I felt like putting big gloves that accentuate that on there would help the opponent and sort of let them know where his big hands were on the mark. But maybe it's a more intimidating thing. It makes him seem larger.
Looks like we had back-to-back timeouts called. Now DC uses one, so they can try and one-up Boston's strategy for this midfield pull.
Oh, okay, so then Boston called a timeout, and then DC called a timeout
Right.
just after that?
Just, I guess.
I like this again where we're getting the
Interesting
midfield pull
strategy.
going upwind.
And it's
That was better. That was better than the one Foster put up. Yeah.
hits the ground and rolls out the back.
And they're getting
Just
down on this.
almost out the back. Hooker picks it up. Herskew, and Boston's able to get it out of the end zone. McNaughton's poached. Trying to go to him. There it is.
Yeah, DC's sagging a bit here on a couple too many players.
Herskew ran through and got an open look there. Swings it back. Boston to Hooker. That floats to McNaughton.
Yeah, DC's down into just a man here. They're kind of baiting some of these deep throws, though.
Boston
Boston's not falling for
moving
it.
very quick here, trying to score. Herskew again.
Yeah, these little simple passes are good.
McNaughton, Boston continue to flow here. Edmonds, they put it in and they score. Edmonds to Cats, and just like that, Boston answers right back on the midfield pull. It's like, well, if you can do it, we can do it.
Yeah, it's good to see that confidence from both squads, but it's also a matter of showing that just one simple midfield pull isn't going to be the difference in the game. And I think Boston really needs to find a way to score maybe 3 of the next 4 points, 3 of the next 5 points, something along that line. Give themselves a little less of a hill to climb in the second half here. Just have to start chipping away at it a little bit.
Boston just used their final timeout. It's really now just become a battle of the midfield pull here to close out the first half. 2:50 left to go.
I feel like the wind is dying down a little bit here. You can see on the goal lines, the orange things aren't flapping quite as hard. The players' jerseys aren't like flapping around quite as much either. So this is a good time, if you expect the wind to come back, to take your chances going upwind. But it's also the moment where you're going to have to calm down and play regular ultimate if the wind isn't going to come back. So it's really a matter of trying to play against the weather right now, just tactically, not so much individually or team level execution wise. But the coach's job is to put their players in a position where if they give their best effort, they'll be in the best spot to win. And DC, if they score after this, can call another timeout, pull another
why not?
midfield.
You know, why not? Keep it up. It's working now. Well, Boston wasn't able to capitalize as much on it. Well, neither team really stopped the other team. They both went down and scored. DC pinned Boston back farther, but
yeah, they did.
I think Boston acted quickly, and
well, DC was running a little extra poaching there in the downfield players, and they let them get a little too far away, made the easy completion a little too easy for Boston. If you're doing that, you're going to leave something open, but it's a matter of not leaving the easy thing open.
Yeah. And what I've noticed too is, as DC, a lot of new faces here, they're trying to find their identity. One thing Will Smolinski said before the game, the question he's asking here in these first couple of games is, who are we? So they're trying to figure things out. Boston, on the other hand, while a lot of their players returned, it looks like they've had some guys that have been historically D-line players out there on offense. Hershkew on that last point played primarily from a defensive standpoint last season. He was out there kind of running the offense for a little bit.
Well, it's a matter of getting to display the skills that you have but haven't been asked to use before. So it's not that they're necessarily bad at that. It's just that they may have had somebody who was there last year who was even better at it.
Yeah, and this is virtually the same line. They throw Foster in there to take out this midfield pull, but you see Katz, Hershkew, Edmonds, McNaughton, now Banerjee, the last man to the line.
I hope that Foster will put a little more into it this time. I think he was almost relying on it being a short field too much and not believing that there was so much wind to stop his powerful pull. But I think this one will be a little deeper.
We'll see what he can do. DC spread out, trying to cover all the space available, and
there we go.
Yeah, definitely a bit farther. It's knocked down by Salmi. He can't stop it all the way and gets him pretty deep into the end zone. Boston gets over, and Salmi will let it rip downfield. Delrico Johnson matched up with Foster, and Johnson had his hand on it.
Yeah.
Couldn't come down with it. He's looking for a call.
Well, I think when he caught it and then swung back in the other direction, he either hit his own foot with the disc or hit his opponent's foot, and it kind of like knocked out of his hand. But that's not really the sort of thing that you can tell how it happened or what exactly was happening there. If we
they were toe-to-toe pretty much. And there was a little discussion with our referee and Christian Foster at the end, but Boston winds up with the disc, and Andrew Hooker will start things off. Hershkew right up to Banerjee.
Boston still working out of that traditional vertical stack.
This one floated. Hershkew leaps up, skies for that one. Swings it back.
So long as they can hit those swing passes across the field, this is a very healthy offense.
Jordan Taylor making that throw, one of the new faces here for Boston. As Edmonds, a little bit too much there for Banerjee, even one of the speedier guys on the team. He can't catch up to that one.
It's a really questionable throw there. They're rushing up into this break opportunity instead of calming down and making sure they pull it to 8-6.
Blake has it right in the corner.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be their trigger guy for longer looks downfield.
He's threatened it, but he hasn't.
Well, he
unleashed.
threw one a little earlier, and it just seemed not to have as much sauce on it as the other throwers.
Here's Johnson. Johnson will send a flick downfield. Should be able to catch up, and Boston just gave up on it. And running in to get it was Khalifa. Herskew just let him have it, and it just hung up there all the way into the end zone.
It was a very pretty throw. It showed a good command of the wind and the conditions from Johnson there to put it up in this tight corner of the end zone that we've seen a lot of discs not sit in. They've sort of faded back off of the field again in that inside-out sort of flick path. But Del Rico controlled the edge of that disc very well and made it sit for the player to run onto. That was Khalifa who scored that, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Gets his first of the night. Johnson his second assist of the night. And we'll see if Misha Herskew gets some words from his coach or letting that one go.
Yeah, that's one of those unpredictable things that kind of hopped up a couple times,
Yeah.
sat there in the wind. Yeah, you want the defender to give chase there, but you're so used to seeing that play out the same way over and over again that you kind of, yeah, maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't happen.
Looking here at the DC huddle as they get their D-line set to go.
Getting that extra wind here.
They feel good. They want to get back out on the field. One, to stay warm, but two, they're going to get another midfield pull here. And they definitely feel good with 1:24 left to go in the half and up 9-5.
Yeah, I don't think I called that one in my picks,
I didn't
picks
either.
thing this week. And I thought New York was going to give a bit more of a game to Philadelphia in that opener. Didn't turn out to be that way either. But, you know, I'm used to being wrong. I'm okay with that.
If you weren't, then life would be trouble sometimes. Got to learn to accept mistakes. Make sure you stick around through halftime. Towards the end of the half, we'll check in with that out-of-town scoreboard, give you the update for the game coming up to tomorrow, and maybe give you a couple of first-half stats here. 1:24 left to go, though, in this first half. 9-5 the score. DC on top of Boston. Jeff Poster, Dusty Rhodes here for MLU Live, and it's an exciting start this season as all our games are live this year. We'll be with you. If you're on the West Coast, you're East Coast, maybe you're right in the middle of the country or you're out of the country, you'll be able to watch all these games live. It's very exciting.
You'll be able to catch them really quickly on replay as well. So if
That's
you
right.
miss them, it won't be until Monday or Tuesday or even Wednesday sometimes last week where the game will be up to watch. You can catch up on all the action that you've missed because you were watching one of the live games or two of the live games.
That's right.
Some of us don't stay up 24 hours watching Frisbee either. So,
If you missed some of the Philly-New York game and you want to check out at halftime here, make sure you come back.
of course,
Go watch some of that game at
it's,
halftime.
it's live sports we're all after.
Yes.
You know, that catching up on your reading work while watching video is a different thing than watching your actual live sports.
So DC will get set for this midfield pull, picking it up. That's Matt Barnhart.
The temperature has definitely dropped here, and I would expect that to do more during halftime, but we're dealing with the first strings of that here at the end of the first half here.
Boston spread out along the goal line, not trying to let anything get past them. There's kind of a gap there on the far side, but this one goes towards the middle, gets past Tyler Chan.
DC got down pretty well. They're running in a soft sort of 3-1-3 zone to start. Now they're pretty much matched up in man.
Little will send it over to Taylor. Taylor looking for Clark. He's got him. Clark on the far side. Clark a flick. That one's in and out of the hands. Carter Thalen.
Not sure why he didn't pick that disc up right away. They've got a minute here.
DC with a chance here. Pretty good field position.
It's a nice solid inside out there from the lefty handler.
And that one's D'd
Nice
up
block.
nicely. Matt Little.
It's a good chase.
Don't see him coming in for a defensive play like that too often. But there he is.
And part of that was that the wind makes you slow up as a receiver when you're coming in towards it. You want to make the catch easier on yourself.
Chan will let one loose. Hartwigger downfield, and that's more or less a punt there for the Whitecaps, and will pin DC back.
Chan was throwing kind of like he would throw to himself, as if he was going to magically run down the field, switch places, and be the fast guy receiving it, not just the trigger man.
See how much time DC elects to use here as we're approaching the 20-second mark.
Got a timeout here. It's not a terrible idea to use it at some point.
See if they move upfield.
Now take that look.
Barnhart. Now they got to look downfield into the wind.
Ooh.
And it's D'd up by Boston, and that should be the way. They're gonna
get
let
this
it
throw
go.
off.
Little hangs it up there. Won't be deep enough anyway. And it's D'd up regardless. Finishes off. Griezmann ends the half.
It's a little dicey there at the end for DC. That throw up through the middle, that could have been intercepted, and Boston could have manufactured a little stronger offensive possession there. But on the whole, this is an absolute victory for the DC Current going into half. They're leading by 4, and we were kind of talking before we might get this up to 14-13, something like that. They've already got 9 points, so they're showing out pretty well on offense. The Whitecaps, however, need to get it together a little bit when they have the disc. They're not really converting at a rate that we would expect them to. So we're going to see what they bring out in the second half.
So don't go anywhere. 9-5 your score. As I said, we'll check in, give you that updated score on the Philly-New York game. Preview, talk a little bit about the Western Conference and tomorrow's matchup between Boston and Philly. Hopefully maybe some first half stats a little bit here and there. It's 9-5, the Current on top of the Whitecaps. You're watching MLU Live right here in Week 1. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Cardinal Stadium on the campus of the Catholic University of America. We're at halftime, 9-5 the score. The DC Current over the Boston Whitecaps. Jeff Poster, Dusty Rhodes on the call tonight here in week one of the MLU's 2016 season. Quick check-in with the out-of-town scoreboard. We already have one final in the books. The Spinners out of Philadelphia absolutely destroying the New York Rumble and kind of putting a downer on the Rumble's home opener at their new stadium in Orange, New Jersey. 22-12, the final score in that one. The only other score we have going on right now, San Francisco with a 7-5 lead over Vancouver as they are getting set to start their second half. Portland hosting Seattle, a rematch of the Western Conference Finals. That game just got started. And tomorrow afternoon, we'll have the last game of week one. Boston will continue their road trip here and head to Philadelphia as one of the first times, Dusty, that we have two teams playing double headers in the same weekend.
Yeah, and it'll be exciting to see the difference between those teams from today to tomorrow. So seeing what the Whitecaps are putting out right now, which is kind of not really where they wanted to be.
No.
But they look like they're in the places on the field that they want to be. So it looks like they're executing their offense, just not executing it well. So what sort of adjustments they'll make for tomorrow will also depend on the weather and depend on a number of things. But at this point, they have a bigger task ahead of them with this second half coming up ahead of trying to get out of this 4-point hole that they've dug themselves.
Well, we have an interesting stat in that first half for DC, who really kind of I don't want to say completely unexpected because they do have a good amount of returners coming back, but definitely a lot of rookies on the team. 7 of their 9 scores were made by rookie players here for the Current against a veteran Whitecaps team. So it's good for DC. They got to feel good about their new players coming out, feeling comfortable, especially against the defending champs. If you're just joining us, we're well under 40 degrees here tonight at Cardinal Stadium and very windy. It was definitely a factor there in that first half, and we're really going to see which coaches possibly made the better adjustments here at halftime. Maybe we'll see some line switches here and there depending on how they want to approach this.
So if you look at the way the throws are distributed for this game so far, Boston's doesn't have anybody over about 8 throws, 9 throws maybe, or at least in completions. None of them are in double digits. Whereas for DC, you've got Lloyd Blake, who's thrown 15 of 18. You've got Zach Norbum, who's 8 for 10. So they're sort of forcing it through a couple players. Like Salmi has got 15 passes or so. And at that point, it's just a matter of which team is dealing better with their specific strategy. So Boston is rounding it out a little bit more and sharing the disc, whereas DC is kind of keeping it among a couple handlers and then going from there to see who's going to take the shot deep or who's going to make the next play in the offensive system.
Boston was outscored by the Current 5-3 in the first quarter, and DC outscored the Whitecaps again in the second 4-2. That gives us that 9-5 score. Blake with a couple of scores himself. Delrico Johnson with a couple of assists. And for Boston, newcomer Nick Thompson has an assist and a goal. Ben Katz with a goal and assist as well. They each have 2 points.
And both teams are completing just about 80% of their passes. The league average overall is about 91%. So you can see that the wind is just having this 11 percentage point effect on their ability to complete passes. Boston's thrown 100 passes. DC's thrown 102 passes. So we're at about the same level. It's just DC has gotten more out of their passes thus far.
Execution has been a little bit better. Well, both teams have taken the field and got their lines out there. DC will pull to start things off.
Opportunity to start here on defense, getting all the way down, hopefully for a good solid pull here.
Looked pretty good. And a little bit of a bobble, and this one will float up quickly.
That could have been a game changer right there at first throw turnover.
Taylor gets it and settles it down to Chan. Chan looking for Hartwigger.
DC's playing largely underneath here.
Hartwigger connects with McNaughton. McNaughton quickly up on that far side. Swing it again to Taylor.
It's a good, steady swing pass there.
McNaughton to Carter Thalen. Fallon threatened to throw, and now he's directing traffic and looking to swing it back the other way. Taylor, a flick. That one is deflected and goes through the hands. They were trying to get it.
Looked like Davis
to
there
Thompson.
on the D, yeah?
And Antoine Davis. There's Kevin Moldenhauer. That one floated. Davis can't come down with that one, though.
Got the first part of it where they got the block, but they needed the completion there, and Boston gives it right back.
That looked like that one even was somehow tipped there as it sailed out in front of McNaughton. It just turned over right away.
Yeah, it was either tipped immediately or the wind caught on the underneath of the
Just
disc and
enough,
popped it up right away.
So here's Moldenhauer against Hartwiger again. A couple of ultimate veterans right now matched up.
Oh, DC's in a tough spot.
Moldenhauer lets loose. This one will float. Give it a chance for Miner, and he can't catch up to it.
If the defense hadn't gotten in the way so successfully there, Miner might have been able to chase that down. That was the right decision from Moldenhauer because their vertical stack hadn't produced any valid options early on in the stall.
That one is deflected away by
another block for Davis.
Yeah. So if he can just hold on to the disc here.
That was almost too easy that time. There was no angle for the thrower to get the pass across the field. Davis read it perfectly and was there well before the offense.
Great field position here for Moldenhauer as he looks to punch it in. And this one will float and go out the back.
That's the wind.
Yeah.
It's simply the wind. He may have been trying to do a little too much of a touch throw there, trying to put it into the corner softly as opposed to sort of hitting his receiver specifically in the chest.
So Boston give it another opportunity here, but now they've got to go to the length of field as Taylor starts things off. This one floats, still up in the air. Boston's player goes down hard, looking for a call, not there. Or maybe it is there as Clark immediately
not
signaled.
sure
I
about
don't
that.
necessarily agree with that either.
There must have been a foul that we missed, I hope, on that call, because it looked like Miner was just sort of standing there waiting for the Frisbee.
It looked like Clark just jumped up, mistimed it, and fell. And this one, he
Just don't lie.
Exactly. DC lets it rip, and this time Davis holds on and leaps into the end zone. And the Current reached the double-digit mark first. It's 10-5.
Technically, that's a hold for the offensive side, but that felt a lot more like a defensive
Took a
point.
while, but yeah.
They stuck with it, and Boston was just sort of stymied when they were trying to go upwind there. Opening up a 5-point lead right out of the half there. That's a good start for DC. And not only that, that point was another long one to start. It was 2 minutes and 50 or 46 seconds or so.
3 minutes.
So that cuts down already the amount of time that Boston has to get back into this game.
So Davis gets his third of the night.
Got a couple blocks in that point, too. He's making fantasy hay for the folks who managed to draft him this year.
Gravander gets the assist. And Boston is searching for answers here, and they've got to do it quickly when you're battling the wind like this. Even with the rest of this third quarter and the amount of time it's been taking to score, teams to score.
It's a solid pull-up win there.
They are dug themselves in a big hole here, down 10-5.
And DC's looking hungry. They can tell that just a little bit more, and this game might already be out of reach.
Exactly. Foster. McNaughton fakes a big one, gets it to Little. Little sends one up. That's Halkyard. Halkyard was looking towards the end zone. Now decides to just dump it back to Herskew.
They're using that crossfield hammer look because they've shown that they'll already throw it, but now they can't risk those turnovers the way they were earlier.
That was close as Herskew, a little bit behind him, ends up catching it. Fell down, gets it to Foster.
They're showing calm offense here. They got to score, though.
Little. To McNaughton. Piers. And he just threw that into a crowd, and
it's just a miscommunication.
No one grabbed it.
They've been putting a lot of pressure on the marks that whole point, getting throws that they wanted, and then they just rushed something there up the middle of the field.
Bellinger picks it up, starts it off.
It's a nice put by Griezmann.
Launches it, and it's D'd up.
That's an error by 34. He's got to go up earlier there. That should have been in his hands long before the defense had a chance.
Barnhart has to deal with one of the defensive captains here for Boston, Hirschberger. Foster.
See, he's keeping his hands low on the mark here.
Right around midfield, dumps it back to Herskew. Herskew up ahead to Little. Little gets his man to jump now, has no mark. Katz to Foster.
DC's a little bit tired here on defense.
Foster will let it go here, and Hawkyard beats his man and goes into the end zone. Boston gets their 6th of the night.
Again, that took too long, though. They're up against time as much as they're up against score right now. We're almost midway through this third quarter, and it's only been 2 goals. It's not enough.
They scored 3 in the first and only 2 in the second. You got to get 4, 5, 6 if you're lucky in this one. And as you said, with just about the halfway mark, 5:31 left to go here in the third.
And to this point, Boston doesn't have a single break in this game. They haven't broken DC yet. DC has
3 in the first half. Yep.
Yeah. That's going to be the difference unless Boston can start making changes here. They have to lure DC into a short field turnover or manage to work it up the whole field after a deeper turnover or something like that. They need to show that same calm possession on offense that they had in the last point, but it needs to be a little more purposeful. They can't be making choices at DC's discretion. They have to be making offensive choices with what they want. And here they've got a pull that is about 45 yards, 44 yards.
Cooper tried to roll it and immediately took a right turn there before it even reached midfield. Blake sends it back to Ferraro, over to Minor, or excuse me, Salmi. And that one just died in the wind. Khalifa was the intended target. Would have been another score for him.
I'm going to tell you that the offensive structure there for DC was very healthy. Salmi had a bunch of different options to choose from, and to tell you the truth, I couldn't really tell which one of those many options that throw was intended for, but there was at least one receiver who had a good shot at it.
Clock moving here. Boston looking for something quick. Doherty reels that one in.
Those are those small field errors. That's what's going to keep Boston out of this game unless they can get a block here.
And a wide open man for the Current. Ferraro. Current wastes no time picking up the disc after Boston turns it over, and they've got 11, maintaining that distance.
Yeah, they're just playing confidently right now. Boston doesn't know what to do. They don't know how to get a 2-pointer or a 3-pointer or even just score casually on offense. They're playing without that level of confidence that we're so used to from Boston. And at this point, it's less about this game because the odds of them coming back from a 5-point deficit in this low scoring a game is pretty low. Yeah. I'm not putting it past them, but it's as much about showing that you can play in these conditions for yourself and for your teammates so that you're ready to play tomorrow in the next game. You want to leave this game with a sense of belief, not with a sense that we couldn't do it or we went up to DC's challenge.
DC feeling confident here, and we're set to pull. Aaron Richards was doing a lot of the pulling earlier in the game. First one here in the second half. This is a pretty good one.
Pretty good power behind that. It's sitting up pretty well here. Didn't stay in bounds, though.
It ends up being a brick.
Tough day. Tough day for
Tough
pulling.
night.
That's true. It's turned a little bit now.
Yeah, completely black skies here at our nation's capital of Washington, D.C.
I really like the way Frisbee looks under the lights. It gives the jerseys a little brighter,
Yeah.
makes a little difference, little contrast between the disc and the background.
Taylor threatens the big huck, gets it to Chan, the one-handed grab with the left. Chan sends one over the defense. Nice, another big one-handed grab. Carter Thalen, Boston trying to move quick. Thompson looking to punch that one in, and that whole point was all about one-handed grabs as McNaughton reels it in.
Whichever one you can use to get on the Frisbee, that's the one it's
Exactly.
time to use. That last throw had an excellent work on the thrower's part there. He worked over with his left-handed backhand fake to one side, got the mark to commit there, and then threw the right-handed backhand on the other side of the mark. That's the way that you put pressure on marks when they know that they have to respect both sides and they have to respect the fact that you can throw with both hands. It puts him in an untenable position as a mark, makes the goal throw a lot easier.
So Thompson gets the assist. He's had a pretty nice night here in his Whitecaps debut. Goal and 2 assists.
And that was a good quick score there from Boston. That's
Yeah.
what they need. Now they need to put pressure in on D, hope for a short field turnover, force a short field turnover, and then they can be in the run-in.
4:27 left to go, 11-7. They had it as close has 3 after their last score in that second quarter was 8-5, and they've been floating around the 4-5 range here ever since.
It's a quality upfield roller here. We're going to see that Boston sideline trap, obviously hoping for a quick early turn. Blake's trying to direct traffic a little bit, tell people where he wants them.
Double team. Mark Flores gets it quickly right up to Norbum.
It's good here. We're jailbreaking back across the field once they got through that zone.
DC looking to put it in. Blake with the long stride gets it and just keeps on running.
It's good vision on the throw there from Flores down into Blake sprinting into the end zone from the handler spot. Being able to see that as a team, it's sort of a position switch for Blake to push downfield that way. But with the team level vision, you just drop the disc into him, again, in that high spot that we talk about where you have a big, tall handler. And it turns into an easy goal. But without the team level awareness, that's a spot that lots of folks don't see.
Lloyd Blake, the hat trick, he's got his 3rd goal of the night. Makes it 7-12, so immediately erases Boston's quick goal that they were able to accomplish. So well, DC's got all the answers right now.
But at least it was quick, so at least Boston's not losing time there in that exchange. They have to keep the pace up in this game and try to put some more points on the board. That'll benefit them more than it will DC.
Current getting set to pull once again. Looks like the disc being held by Barnhart. Couldn't see it from where we were. He had it well hidden.
Trying to hold that heat in as they get ready to sprint down here.
Barnhart, there's the pull. It's a low one. Hits the turf. And Boston will pick it up. Boston, again, trying to move quick here. Taylor, right to midfield. Chan, running through. Gets it to McNaughton. A couple of Tufts teammates, former Tufts teammates connecting. Halkyard, up to Chan. Chan looking to take over this point. Hirschberger. Cornell grad sends a hammer, and it's nicely defended by, I believe that's Chip Cobb.
Yeah, one way or the other. That was a throw that I was expecting to be completed once he released it, but the chase there and to find the flight path was very well done.
It's coming back, though.
Looked
Going to
like
end
a foul.
up being a foul on the throw, so Boston benefits from that one. It's a nice play by Cobb, but all for nothing in the end. Hirschberger's got it back. He's got a lot of space on this near side.
Yeah, those are tough throws with the wind coming this way, though.
So they dump it back to Chan. Chan, nice grab that time.
He's attempting to get in bounds.
From Clark. Clark, another Tufts guy. That's where most of Boston's team seems to come from now. The E-men at Tufts.
There we go, getting over to the break side. That should be an easy goal.
And they get it into McNaughton. Back-to-back scores here for Piers McNaughton, 3 on the night. And Boston, again, cuts it back to 4. But they've got to find a way to get a break here. You don't often win games without break scores.
Not once you've given them up, for sure.
That's right.
You can find a way if you manage to not get broken yourself. So now it's a matter of time before we start wondering when Boston's going to take one of those midfield pulls. If I were coaching them, I'd try to get one break and then midfield pull after that first break to put that second level pressure on them. But at this point, Boston's shown no ability to actually break the current. So I don't know if we're hoping for something that's not going to come.
Looks like they've got Ben Katz and Misha Hersky who've been playing a lot of offense tonight out on this line right now. So potentially hoping for that break opportunity on this point to have a couple of O-line guys out there. So Foster to pull. He's going to try and roll this one a bit, maybe get it past DC. Nice stop by Miner.
It's got those big clown glove
white
hands,
gloves, right?
Not his
Mickey
hands
Mouse
themselves.
gloves.
Yeah, right. It's the gloves.
Here we go. This one down to the other end. And Davis just beats out Misha Hersky, and he is pumped up. Antoine Davis.
He's got a little bit of that Russell Westbrook style excitement when he scores.
Why not?
He's trying to rip that disc in half, putting it on the ground. But thus far, he's shown the ability to create separation on offense in a way that we have grown to expect all of DC's players, or most of DC's players, to be able to do, where they have that level of acceleration to either create space, or level of acceleration to either create separation or to close down on a player when they're on defense.
Now you kind of see the new leadership here on the field for DC as Lloyd Blake and Delrico Johnson kind of telling their guys where they need to be.
Lloyd Blake very aware there that he's wearing unapproved headwear with the warm red cap that he has just taken off.
It's been interesting. Some things they seem to be allowing, some things they're not. Most of the players have the warm-up pants under the shorts, at least on Boston's side.
It's at least, it looked like Griezmann was wearing that same thing, but it also looked like his leg was taped around
want
the outside.
Pants flapping, I guess. Maybe
they don't want to let that air in there.
The resistance, I'm not sure. So a short pull right around midfield. Taylor will pick it up. Boston, 3 handlers back. Hartwigger and Little with them. And running through it for the D was Blake. And just some frustration there.
Looked like it was close to a strip, but it wasn't sure from here if he had actually completed the catch or not.
That's Khalifa. Khalifa's been very good here.
And he's been working on that two-handed fake style there, too.
Yeah, knocks down Little. Salmi has sent it across the fields. This one is bladed, but nearly caught. Norbram had it on his hands.
Yeah, he was the only player downfield to see it come out of the thrower's hand, so he was the first person to the spot there. Good heads-up play, but got to complete the catch.
Chan lets it loose. McNaughton, he's definitely got speed, but not that much speed.
I think he was trying to get through the mark there a little bit, sort of draw the foul on that throw, and then sort of released it anyway. I think it looked like he was either expecting the foul or was actually fouled. Can't tell from here, but it was out in front.
No call, yeah. Blake will pick it up.
Yeah, they're getting some tight spots here so far with the refs on this particular point. There were some tough calls. And then we have that little sort of roller just thrown up the sideline there.
Nice sliding grab by Chan. Approaching the 1-minute mark. We're at 1:18 left to go in this third quarter. Boston absolutely needs a score here. Little. Couple of fakes, now moves, sends this high release backhand and over Hartwigger.
Got the insurance block there to make sure that it wasn't just going to hang around there in the end zone.
You can never be too careful with the wind.
Not until it's down.
Blake will start things off again, kind of giving a bit of a wide berth there by Thalen. Salmi got a hand on it. Blake comes back. He can do that because Salmi got the hand on it.
Yep.
He's pinned back in his own end zone now. Dumps it back to Salmi.
It's that second-hand backhand again from another player.
Boston looking for the Callahan opportunity. This one will float, but DC
a lot of space.
Open. Yep.
A lot of space.
DC
would be wise to stay calm on this possession. The longer it takes, the better for them. Even though there's only 20 seconds or so left in the quarter.
To kill it off. 20 seconds right now. Salmi. You cannot give up the Callahan, though.
That's a tough one.
Blake.
That was the shot.
That was, yeah. This one will hang. And they jump. And Boston will get it a chance to put it in the final seconds here. Send it up, and they got it.
That was the worst thing that DC could have done.
Chan.
It's a little bit of hope for Boston going into the final quarter of play. And the only thing that DC needed to do was possess the disc for 5, 6, 7 more seconds. And instead, they're just throwing it out the side of the end zone there. It would have been better to even just put it up and to see what kind of distance you can get to prevent Boston from having this easy goal. Because unless DC can manufacture a scoring opportunity in 3 seconds here, maybe they can draw a foul on Boston as get back for earlier in the game. But unless they can do that, Boston's going to close this particular quarter out with the last score, as we talk about repeatedly.
Tyler Chan, believe it or not, that's his first point of the game. He was our key player for Boston, and he's been involved, definitely. But that time he gets the score from McNaughton. Pierce McNaughton, a nice third quarter here, 2 goals and an assist. He's got 3 goals on the night, so.
One of the ways that Chan becomes a really threatening player is he opens up deep area for himself to be thrown to. And in a wind like this, you just don't get the same level of precision from the throwers.
So now here's a question. I believe that's Davis Whitehead, one of the new Whitecaps here, and he's
got a
definitely
red
not
cap.
wearing a white cap.
What is going on here? It's got to have some control over the color of these hats.
They wouldn't let Blake wear his maroonish style one. I don't know.
Well, maybe Blake's aware. He's a veteran. He's supposed to be out here all the time.
Maybe. That might be what it is. He doesn't get the slack.
After that whole headband debacle last year.
Well, Norbrom will let it loose here. He got it off in time. Boston just kept all their players back. And, well, that was
almost
very close. Boston knocked it down, but there was definitely a play on it available for DC. And
unsurprising that Chip Cobb was one of the fastest players from end zone to end zone to get down there and have an opportunity at it. If he could have read the future, he could have actually had that catch. But it happened so quickly there with the wind pushing it down, bouncing off of at least one person. He was in the right place, but luck was not on his side.
so we played even there as we see the end of the third quarter, 13-9. Both teams scoring 4 times. No change. Whitecaps don't gain any ground. Current don't lose any ground.
Still, I feel like that was a victory for the Whitecaps there. The Current should have extended their lead
Put them
one
away,
more point or
maybe.
so. Footage here for a moment. Now we're back.
A little bit of a shot.
That was
Hormel
something.
Stadium.
They're right. That was up in Boston or Medford.
That's right. Looked a little warmer.
A little brighter, a little warmer.
So again, Boston will travel up to Philadelphia tomorrow afternoon, 12 o'clock start. So if you can't make it out to the game in Philly, make sure you tune in at MLU Live. We'll have Dusty and myself back in action. Day 2, very similar to our start last year, Dusty.
Yep.
Just flip-flopped is all.
The only difference this year is that I've actually done this before,
That's
so I'm
right.
not quite as nervous as I was in the past. That whole first weekend, I was jittery and shaky and like
You did fine.
so worried. I appreciate that. I'll take all of the lies as long as they're on my side, right? As long as it seems like I'm doing it right.
Whatever helps you sleep, right? Is that the?
That's
But
what.
yes.
Yeah.
We will be at Philadelphia tomorrow.
Do you think are we at the same stadium that we were at last year, or is this a different one up in that same?
Germantown Academy.
Yeah.
Philly.
I know we've been there before. I just can't remember
Played
which
a couple
game was
of
which.
games of their season there last year. They kind of went on the stadium tour last season.
Yeah, you gotta leave ultimate seeds all over Philadelphia. That's been one of their things for a long time within the PATA Summer League. Their whole notion was to breed ultimate. So that's part of the MLU thing too, is to go all over in Philadelphia
Show
and
your
try to figure out where the ultimate fans are, where the most likely place for them to come out is.
Well, that's kind of a thing that actually, as we have our game tonight, Will Smolinski has been doing in DC here. He's trying to create a culture and create a system here. And players move up from the high school ranks. They hopefully go to college in the area, and they come back, and then he hopes to have them play on his Current.
Will's one of the reasons around the DC area, one of the many reasons, including just sort of a culture and a history at schools, where he's sort of responsible for why a lot of these DC Current players have the fundamental skills that they need to compete at this level. He's been teaching them since they were in middle school at ultimate camps in the summer and coaching Yorktown HB as well. So we're having some trying to figure out some technical things here. I'm getting a little distracted by all of the motion and the commotion here up in the booth at the moment.
I apologize for any technical difficulties we are experiencing.
Or verbal difficulties as I get distracted by things going on around me.
Both teams set to go here, though, in the start of the fourth quarter. And the Current, after winning the toss to open this game up, will start with the disc, and that.
Well, you'd think that'd be good for the Current, but Boston needs breaks, and DC just needs the game to go faster. So anything that they can do to make this 10 minutes go as fast as possible would be on DC's side, and anything that Boston can do to sort of make their scoring plays go quickly, but the rest of the game not spend too much time, that'll be in their favor.
Well, Foster will pull. Pretty good one.
Little trouble fielding it there, but
Got past
nothing
Norbrom,
too bad.
bounced off of Salmi, but Blake has it.
And he's been very steady in the back with his throws. He's using those underneaths very well.
Gibson skies up and grabs that one nicely.
Would have bounced over a lot of players, but Gibson was there to increase the area that Norbum could throw into.
And then at the opposite side, Norbum gets one below his knees.
It's the same thing. If the Current can just possess this disc all the way up the field and score their first hold of this quarter, they'll be in a very good spot.
Foster nearly tipped that one right to Khalifa.
And he read that, so he was covering originally the second handler, but then he jumped in to get the block on the first handler closest to the thrower. Very good heads-up D by Foster.
Cooper waited for the rest of his offense to get downfield and before picking up the disc, and now we have foul against Boston.
It's a play that surprised me a little bit, but I'm generally in favor of picking up the disc and going quickly because why do you want to let the defense set up?
Foster's got it. Foster looking for the assist, and Boston finally took 3 quarters to do it, but they get their first break of the game as Foster connects with Rob Baker.
And that was a pretty quick score when it comes down to breaks. About a minute or so. That's about the average length of a first possession break, and that's what Boston needs to start this. That'll put a little bit of doubt into the back of the Currents players' heads, where they wonder if this is going to be one of those times that Boston finds a way to get back into a game that they weren't in. They've come back from a deficit like this with 2 minutes left in the past. But is this the same sort of thing? So this is what we're saying.
Timeout. First one here.
We were talking about that in the last quarter. Take that timeout right after you get the first break and put even more pressure on DC.
So look at the midfield pull. Baker gets his first score as a member of the Whitecaps. And Foster, as a captain does, trying to rally his team. Gets the D, gets the assist. Kind of a form of bookends, I guess, if you want to call it that. He's still getting a point at the other end.
Staying heavily involved both on offense and defense. So now Boston has got to be talking about not just that they're going to get a block, but the key is to figure out how you're going to get a block, to create the conditions on the field that you expect that the other team doesn't know you're sort of luring them into a trap.
And I like this too. You saw initially head coach Sam Rosenthal and assistant Tom Matthews over to the side talking, letting the players talk to themselves a bit here, letting them kind of fire themselves up a bit.
Well, it's a two-pronged approach there because it also gives your coaches a chance to not think about the players and just think about the game situation and talk over anything that they have differing thoughts about or dueling thoughts about, and then bring it back to the team after they've sort of mentally collected themselves as well, as you mentioned.
DC has done a pretty good job here. They're doing a pretty good job with the Innova disc. Innova is proud to support Major League Ultimate and its incredible athletes as the official disc of the MLU. The Innova Pulsar has quickly become the disc of choice at Ultimate's highest level. Visit innovadiscs.com to find a dealer near you. And of course, Skippy, the official peanut butter of Major League Ultimate. It's made with the funnest peanuts ever. Skippy, yippee!
I'm looking forward to it every single time you do that read because I want to hear how the yippee comes out at different games, what sort of tone we've got, how excited you are in the moment.
Got to keep you on your toes, Dusty.
I got to tell you, the Pulsar, that's got to be my favorite ultimate size disc for disc golf because it flies very true to the path that you put it on. It's very interesting the way that flies. Like it just sits on that same curve the whole time. So if you can plan out your throw, it'll really get you there.
Well, we're going to see how Christian Foster will plan this throw of the Pulsar from a midfield pull.
This is their time. This is where Boston's got to make a change and figure out how to make something happen at this end of the field and then verify it by scoring the goal. The wind is really picking up right now. We've got discs flying away on the sidelines. We've got players hunched over because they're cold. This is the telling moment in the game.
Both teams, I'm sure, are very glad that the precipitation that was earlier forecasted has held off here, and they'd like it to hold off for another 8:57 of game time. That's how much we've got left. 13-10 the score. Boston with the midfield pull. Got past one player on DC. That was Webster, but it bounced up, and they're actually going to have to bring it back right to about the goal line. That's where they'll start off and immediately put it downfield, and McNaughton cuts off his man. Didn't get a hand on the disc, but had good position to not allow the cutter for DC to come up and pick it up.
Could have used a little more air under that from Bellinger, but I see the idea there was just that they wanted to get it down to the other end of the field.
Griezmann was the guy he was trying to get it to. Now Hooker will start off for Boston, and that was their opportunity to get back-to-back scores.
They're playing right into DC's hands there. If you show no competence on offense, there's no dissuasion for the other team to just put it down to the other end of the field.
And that one skips as they might have a call.
Yeah, thrower is looking for a call right away, and based on the flight of that path, the flight path of that disc, probably a call.
And it is. But there's nowhere to advance as you're on the goal line. And there it is. There's the score as DePaula throws it in. And the score
looked like it was Webster.
To Webster,
there on the
yeah. Gabe Webster.
That's one that Boston, they had their chance. And that's the thing that's been happening over this whole game is they get their chances, they get their short field opportunities, or they get their opportunities to work up the field for a break. And their ability to just stick with their plan and stay in the offense has been lacking a little bit. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's because they're a little hesitant, they don't know exactly what they're looking for yet, or if it's mostly due to the wind.
Well, if DC ends up holding on to this one, Boston will look to that very moment as potentially the nail in the coffin. You got the break score finally.
Yep.
You pull from midfield. You got them to turn it over right away, and then you hand it right back. You essentially gave them the position they were trying to get, so that's not the way you try to execute on another break opportunity. So DC calls timeout. Now they'll get the midfield pull.
At this point, it's the interesting questions become, how do you want to use these timeouts as a team that's ahead for DC, and how do you want to use these timeouts as a team that's behind for Boston?
Yeah, DC wants the clock to run.
Yeah, but this in between it's making the actual experience of the game longer, but it's not making the clock run any faster or slower. And one of the things that always happens when you call a timeout is the other team gets to totally choose who they want to put in because everybody's a little bit more rested. So it might be a help for Boston as well to have precisely who they want in to set up for the next handful of points. So Boston's still in this game technically, but that last possession, you got to have more than one throw, right? You just generally
yeah.
For possessions, you want more than one throw.
Unless you've got at least in a game like this, the downwind huck. You're not getting it to the end zone when you're trying to go into the wind. Boston on the wrong side of a 14-10 deficit.
Right, it's that old adage for boxing, right? Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
Exactly.
you give up 2 breaks in the first 10 points or so. That's the equivalent. You're suddenly down. And with the way that the first half and the first quarter ended, DC had a 3-point run, and it put them in position to just maintain that leverage for the rest of the game. And they've done so very effectively. In the third quarter, they traded goals the whole time. Thus far in the fourth quarter, they've traded goals. Yep. And once you've got a lead, that's all you need to do.
Yep. Got to get stops one way or the other. So DC will try and execute the midfield pull. Aaron Richards has it. How great does Kevin Moldenhauer have to feel, though, back out on the field there after 2 years off? From the sideline back onto the field as he's out there with the D-line.
And you can ask him directly. He'll tell you right away that he loves playing and that he's excited to be back out on the field and making things happen.
And there he is on the double team. Little Scoober up to Clark. DC still double teaming with Moldenhauer and Miner.
I like that double team.
Cup.
I like the way that they're using sort of a primary mark and then sort of an inside lane mark. And they're not rushing too much to the thrower.
Well, it's causing Boston to use a lot of time as well.
Yep.
Even though they're completing passes. Now Boston finds a way through, but they miss on an open man. Carter Thalen a little bit too high. And with the wind, he drops it. Good grab there by Miner.
A lot of this game has been the story of unforced errors. DC has made just a couple fewer.
And that one was close. Davis
had his hand on it.
Looking for another one. Hartwigger picks it up, starts it off. Clark quickly to Chan. Boston looking to move fast here. Halkyard sends it. The hammer downfield, and it's reeled in from the ground. Thalen missed on his last one, but comes up with that one, and I think there's a kind of a sigh of relief from him that he didn't drop that one.
Yeah, some of those hammers, especially when you're playing at night under the lights, they just come out of the sky, and you can't really tell what's happening or how quickly it's coming in until it's right there. And you know that everybody on the field is watching you try to deal with this thing that is screaming out of the sky at you. And not just the people on the field, the people in the stands, and all of us up here in the broadcast. We're all watching you right now. So the second that enters into your head, that's when it starts becoming complex and drops happen.
So Boston will not use one of their timeouts here for a midfielder. Hoping for that break, I would imagine, again.
Yeah.
Well, they need it, but
Can't rush it yet.
Foster will pull.
6:56 left. It's enough time for them to make a run, but
They've
I
gotta
keep
be
saying
quick.
that because I've seen them do it before,
Right.
but this is such an uphill struggle right now.
Foster, first pull we've seen come this direction. The near side here tonight. Roller. Blake will pick it up. And Boston will employ the double team. Blake able to get out of it, up to Salmi. Swings it out to Ferraro as DC tries to use both sides of the field. There's Blake again. He's all over the place.
DC working out of a vertical stack here near the end zone.
Norbum sends it up high, and just like that, Justin Solis connects again. And Norbum gets another assist.
He's having a bit of a day, huh?
Norbum and Solis. DC's having a bit of a day here.
On the whole, yeah. It's just a it's shocking to see the way that Boston has failed to respond. I mean, it's not that they haven't been in position to respond and haven't had their chances. It's they haven't taken advantage of those opportunities, and that's not what we're used to seeing from the Whitecaps on the whole.
6.5 left to go. It's a long season here in the MLU. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and we saw last season, of course, Boston opened up the season 0-2 and didn't matter. They basically raced through the Eastern Conference and blew past Seattle en route to their second championship, but it never helps to start off the season with a loss, no matter who you are. And right now, if things don't change pace in the last 6 minutes and 30 seconds, DC will start off their season on the right foot.
Horizontal here, a very obvious play call.
Hartwinger
It's just a matter of what they do after that.
gets it to Chan. Chan's got an open McNaughton, but he wants to go towards the end zone, and that's Thalen again. Back-to-back goals here for the young Carter Thalen.
It's a little bit of contact there in the downfield area on his defender, Webster. Got bumped off a little bit, so he was trailing there, and the thrower caught sight of that really well. Put a lead pass out there to where the defender couldn't see it, didn't have a chance to chase it down. It's a good assist there, a good execution from Boston.
Chan with the assists. He started to come alive here in the latter stages of this game, taking over offensively, and Boston cuts it back down to 3, and importantly, they did it in 15 seconds.
Yep. Time. Tick, 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 tick. DC's ready for this next point. Boston's looking a little more positive here on the line as they're getting ready to pull. A little more active, a little more like they believe.
Once again, Christian Foster, captain here for the Whitecaps, set to pull. Very good pull into the wind. Blake will start it off over to Salmi. And Delrico Johnson is hustling downfield. That's Solis. on the
Drew a
far
lot of
side.
attention from the defender on him as well as the other defenders.
Salmi comes back under for the dump. He's got Gibson back, and we have a whistle away from this, a pick against DC. So Salmi will march it back 10 yards.
Little switching here in the back from Boston picked up Delrico's first deep cut pretty well.
Here's a hammer that the wind definitely took pushed it up a little bit from Blake, and Boston able to come over and get the D.
It was probably the lowest quality hammer we've seen so far out of the 5 or 6 or so.
And we have
Injury here for Boston. It's coming off pretty gingerly.
that's Victor Lua.
Putting in Taylor here as a sub.
It works out Boston's favor. So number 10, Victor Lua, exits the game, and
DC brought Antoine Davis on.
that's right. They get to sub as well.
Didn't see who ran off there, though. Looks like they brought Khalifa off,
came
yeah.
off.
Now Boston's in a tight spot here right away in this corner, and their little short passes to the front of the stack are kind of tight in this wind.
And timeout called by Boston. Sam Rosenthal ripped his hat off his head. It takes some guts to do that in the cold like this. So
Yeah,
he's either not happy with what's going on, or he just wants to get the rest of his offense out there.
They needed to do something there because there were 4 sort of downfield Boston players sort of milling about in a square kind of formation. And that's not generally how you find open spaces as an offense, just milling about in a square type formation. And as you saw, they weren't throwing their first looks to their handler reset offense. And then once those 2 guys were already out of position, if you have players warning around downfield, you have 2 out of position handlers near you, the thrower doesn't really have any more options other than putting it up downfield. So Rosenthal sees that, throws his hat off, maybe because he didn't get the timeout called as quickly as he wanted. But they're saving possession right now, and they need to score this goal to bring it to 2 points instead of 3.
Well, he'll use the opportunity as well, I'm sure, to get the rest of his offensive guys out there. Imagine we'll see Chan come back in. McNaughton's been a big factor here.
It's a matter of figuring out exactly who the right line is right now.
Yeah. One guy we have not seen much of at all has been Misha Sidorsky here for the Whitecaps. It was kind of a very quietly good player for them last season. Missed some time here and there, made the trip down, but have not seen much of him tonight.
Maybe they're resting him for tomorrow for a back-to-back like in the NBA. It's starting early.
Possible.
Get on that Coach Popovich train.
He's a guy that, if you're playing fantasy, I'd call him a bit of a sleeper.
I'm unfortunately not playing fantasy
I am not
this year.
either.
The MLU Content League didn't end up coming together. Maybe we didn't have enough content, or we were discontent or something. But I didn't get the invite for the midnight draft.
In content. I like it.
Last year it was a very entertaining draft. Some of the teams ended up with players that the owners only disliked. Some teams ended up with people that they could only not really pronounce their names. It's quite entertaining.
So Boston does use the opportunity to get their offense out there. DC subs as well. They got their D line out.
Coming out in sort of a horizontal stack here, but shifted over. So there's a lot of cutting lane on the open side.
Jake Taylor connects with Matt Little after quite a few bobbles there. Little holds on to it.
It's
Boston
questionable.
Needs to score quick to stay in this. Right up around midfield. That's Clark.
That's a good completion there.
Clark connects with Nick Thompson. Thompson's had a nice debut here for the Whitecaps.
Good continuation there.
Clark again.
That's a tough one.
Another one to Thompson.
Showing some skill here from Boston.
Chan looking to the open side, and he gets McNaughton. And the sideline for the Whitecaps pretty fired up as they cut it to 2 with 4:26 left to go. Great possession there for the Whitecaps out of the timeout.
That is a big, big play for Boston. Now it's a 2-point game. DC is trying to go upwind, and they showed the ability on that particular point where they were sort of cordoned off on that far side of the field for a while. They were running their offense over there, but then they made a conscious decision and relied on that swing throw of Jake Taylor to get over to this side. And once they got here, then they were in a power position where their defenders were sort of chasing them over to this side of the field, and they could use that momentum against them as well as continue going over to this side with the backhand. Now it's a matter of how good is this pull going to be and how well can they get down on it. A lot of the people who have been pulling downwind in this game so far have been sort of short-arming it and expecting the wind to help them. I think he would be best served here by going with a huge inside out and trying to get it all the way down here. Goes with the outside in, a little bit of a roller, harder to catch.
It stops. Salmi stops it. Gets it right over to Blake. The lanky handler here for the Current.
Good
Back
little
to
handler
Salmi.
cut there for Salmi.
Terry Roth trying to cover him tightly on the mark.
Is that a stall? No, it's a foul.
Foul.
I thought it was
close.
a second early for
Very
a stall.
Close. Roth with some good defense, but
It looks
a little
like
close.
the DC handlers and the throwers may want to engage with their resets a little sooner here because the stall count isn't so long that they can just zoom in on one player.
Blake with a nice rundown.
And good offensive structure to have that much space for that throw-up line.
Delrico Johnson keeps it in on that far side, trying to get around the mark. Puts up this one towards the end zone. It's caught. Was he inbounds? He was. Nice play there by the Current. They got to feel good after that one. Mark Flores with the goal from Johnson.
That looks so nice and calm on the part of the Current. Their offense was a little tight at times, but they trusted in it anyway, completed a couple tight passes on those up line cuts, and now we're left with 3:35 in this game. Still a 3-point game. Boston's going to get the first chance to bring it back to 2 again, and DC is taking a timeout to work with this midfield pull.
Yeah, we'll have to see potentially. Now, Boston did score on that timeout after they called that timeout, but it was a frustration timeout
Right.
at the lack of ability to move the disc. We'll see if that could come back to hurt them to not have that in their pocket and ability to use it.
Yeah, but you don't want to. Yeah, you have to burn that timeout to get the goal, though. It's the sort of thing where you'd like that extra advantage, but take the goal. Always take the points. Looking into the rest of this game, the refs have been they've done a good job on the whole, but there have been a couple tight plays here and there where discs have been tipped and then there's been a little bit of contact, or some of the marks have been a little tight, a little bit aggressive. Over the last 3:30 here, you want to make sure that as a ref, you're sure of what your crew wants to call for this game. Very aware of the standard that you've set so far, where there's been a little bit of physical play here and there that hasn't been called for either team. So we want to make sure that we get that managed well before this plays out as well.
We'll see who Boston sends out there. I really think the big difference in the way their offense is played is the execution, especially between Tyler Chan and Piers McNaughton. They kind of a two-man show here in this second half. McNaughton, he has 4 goals on the night. He had the very first one of the game, 3 here in the second half, as well as an assist to Chan. And Tyler's had the last 2 points, connecting with McNaughton and Carter Thalen. So play of those two on offense is pick the Whitecaps right back up. And there they go, heading out onto the field. Thalen and Little as well. Looks like former Dogfish, Nick Thompson, Jake Taylor, and Sandy Hartwigger will be out there as Cobb comes out, as well as Barnhart, DePaula, Gabe Webster, Michael Moses. DC set to go, so
Let's hope we get this pull into the back corner so we have a pretty good test for Boston here, and we see what tricks DC has up their sleeves for this, what should be a good downfield
I
pull.
believe this is the first midfield pull we've seen from that side of the field. And that one gets by Taylor way out the back. Little pick it up. They'll have to start it at the very back of the end zone. Immediately the double team coming over. The Scuba, and
Wow.
Taylor bails out the Whitecaps right there. Chan has it.
A lot of tension up here in the booth with that throw.
Thompson looking for McNaughton downfield. The speedy man from Tufts reels it in. He's about an inch short of the goal line, and then he finds Thalen, and Boston survives a big-time scare there. Jake Taylor, the captain, reaches up skies for that one. What could have been a Callahan and certainly would have been basically the sealed fate of the Whitecaps.
Apparently seemed to be just the right throw to just the right space there that we couldn't see up here. But once they completed that pass, it was more or less off to the races. And they had enough confidence to unleash that big deep throw from Thompson, I believe.
Yep.
Had a lot to do with it. And then Thalen at the end, once they were on that two-on-two break, instead of running directly into the end zone, if you saw it, he stopped, ran across the field, and then up into the end zone on the other side of the thrower. What that does, so long as the thrower sees you coming, is it makes your defender react to a cut before you even get there. You're not running straight towards your defender who's beating you down the field. You're changing the angle and pushing out and giving him an easy option for a goal early. Very good work to confirm that score.
And again, McNaughton, another big player once again in that score, and gets the assist, but he really had the huge run. Miner stops that one.
Solid pull, well fielded.
DC's got their D-line out there for this one. Miner gets it from Moldenhauer. Quickly over to Richards. Richards trying to deal with Katz. The layout bid defensively for Boston, not there. Moldenhauer gets it, but Hooker is hurt. That'll stop the clock at 2:55. Always tough, too, in the cold as guys tighten up and you can get cramps easy. And that might be just what Hooker's dealing with right now.
It looks like he came through there. Could have landed on Moldenhauer's ankle or something on the way through.
Seems to be walking okay, though. It's just good to see.
Pretty good shot at that block. It was a good thing that Moldenhauer had the ability to focus on it and stick with that disc. And you can see he just turned upfield like there was never anybody laying out past him in the first place.
Doherty comes in for him, and now DC's going to get, looks like Moldenhauer's coming off as well. Or
looks like Moldenhauer for
Norbum.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Kevin was looking a little bit cold there as the disc stopped. He started trying to keep his hands warm, his legs warm. Good to get some youth out there. You get creaky.
Don't let him hear you say that. Norbum unleashes a big one here, looking downfield for his man, Gravander, and it's D'd up by Boston, Jay Clark.
Some physical defense down there. I don't think it was a foul, but he established that position aggressively.
That's Baker with the disc, gets it to Herskew. Boston can get it to a 1-goal deficit here. Banerjee to Clark.
Got to dig deep now on defense for DC.
Katz up ahead, Foster. Doherty's making a cut towards the end zone. Foster will shake him off.
They're not quite close enough on defense.
Now he's putting one up. He's got Katz running downfield, but he's way too far. Banerjee was in the area as well. Banerjee, another guy with some speed, but
that was their chance for Boston. They just ended up with a nothing throw to someone who wasn't even cutting there.
And now DC walks it up to the line. They can kill some clock here as we are at 2 minutes left. This one floats. It's a 50-50 disc. It's tipped, and it's caught by Boston. Baker.
Lefties are still playing a role here. Norbum's trying to complete those passes, but he's only able to get them off in part because they're a lefty backhand instead of a righty flick.
Herskew gets it to Banerjee. Banerjee, a low throw. Nice dig out there by Baker, sliding for the grab. Minute 38 left to go. Foster.
It's a little tight here for Boston.
Foster with the OI looking for the end zone, and he's got his man. With 1.5 left to go, Ben Katz reels it in, and Boston now trails just by one, 15-16 on the break.
They're definitely making a game of this, and as we were talking about earlier, there's no quit in Boston, so they're trying to get back in this, and that throw from Foster cross field, using the wind a little bit to get it to its destination, that's a very touch throw. He could have easily thrown that too hard, could have knifed that too much. Any number of ways you could have made an error on that throw. He didn't. He delivered it directly to a very open teammate there in the end zone. That's what I was talking about with DC's defense, is they were just lagging behind a little bit, leaving too much space, as if Boston was just going to give it back to them.
And the Whitecaps use their third and final timeout here to get that midfield pull. It's about as good a situation they could ask for to set this up. Try and get a quick stop and put it in to tie it up at 16.
This is it. This is the time where DC actually gets to find out who they are, in a sense.
Yeah.
Who's out on the line right now? What are their roles? Who's going to be in charge of the disc? Who's going to be closer to it? Who's going to be providing that deep look early on? Are they just going to keep putting up like they did in that last point? Or are they going to feel a little more timid and try to work the disc? Because if they take enough time, this point could end. But 90 seconds of offense in this wind, I haven't seen any teams capable of that yet today.
Boston outscoring the Current 6-3 here in the fourth quarter. Easily their highest scoring quarter. They had 3 in the first, only 2 in the second, 4 in the third, and 6 here in the fourth.
And DC got those 3 breaks early, so they got 2 breaks in the first quarter, 1 break in the second, whereas Boston here has gotten 3 breaks in this fourth quarter. Fourth quarter is when you determine the game, and Boston's here to play.
Can the experience of the Whitecaps win out this one against the new-look DC Current? And I mean, I say the experience, but Boston's had a couple of new guys themselves out there making big plays. Thal in there. Nick Thompson's been involved. Rob Baker defensively has been a nice addition here for the Whitecaps. But again, I fall back in my minds to the play of Chan and McNaughton. Have really gotten them back into it. And a huge catch by Jake Taylor.
It's true. It's true. We can't forget that bit.
That could be the unsung moment of this game.
We won't let that one fall through the cracks of history. We'll remember it. That's what we're here for.
Exactly. It has been captured and documented and talked about.
Well, here we go. We're down to the end here in another DC versus Boston classic. Even though for most of this it seemed like
right?
DC was just going to walk away with it.
A minute 30 left exactly. DC with 1 timeout. Boston used their final one right here for this midfield pull. Christian Foster set to pull. Current have their offense back out there.
While some of the fans are literally sitting on their hands, but they are pounding with their feet at the same time.
And Foster, a nice midfield pull, gets it out the back.
That's what we're talking about. He had a little trouble fielding it there, even after he was out of the end zone. The stall is getting high.
Blake stuck here in the back, trying to get around the defense, and Gibson with a nice catch. That one looked like it might float, but Dom Gibson, the athlete he is, but
Didn't
he throws
even matter if
it
it
away.
Floated. Threw it to no one. There wasn't
no
even
one
a receiver there.
Approaching a minute, Boston can tie it up here. Taylor looking to Little, and Little's in. It didn't seem like he might have been at first, but there he is. And we start over with 1:04. We just said it, Dusty. It is deja vu between these two teams. It doesn't matter who's on the teams. Whenever they play here, it's as close as it can be.
And yet again, that's another quick score. That's a 26-second break for Boston. They got up there, got the disc down to this end zone on the midfield pull, and then something fell apart for DC. They weren't connected on offense. They trusted Dom Gibson to make that play. Lloyd Blake put it out in front of him, trusted his receiver to make a slightly difficult catch, but that's what he's there for. But after that, they didn't give him any support. They didn't give him any options downfield. And he was stuck thinking what he thought was going to be a safe option, straight back to his reset. Reset bailed out.
Wasn't even there.
He left as soon as that was happening. So it's a matter of connection between the team right now for DC.
Gibson's a veteran here, too, and he was looking for Salmi, another guy. These are 2 of their returning players here that are being counted on to be go-to guys, and especially situations like this. And you see the difference right now on the sidelines. Boston is fired up, and DC is trying to figure something out. Now, they're still up a break so that they have that opportunity to potentially win the game here with 1:04 left.
The key is the minute 4. So ideally, you would use 64 seconds to score.
They just used their final timeout, too.
As we've discussed, we haven't seen that either of these teams is capable on this particular night, in this particular game, of maintaining possession for that long. And it'll be a tough task considering they're going upwind again. It's not as heavy and as strong as it was earlier, but there's still enough of it that the passes upfield are more tested. There's just a little more pressure on every single throw.
So here we go, 1:04 left. DC starting to send their guys out there, tied up at 16. There are no records right now. Both teams just fighting for that first win of the season to start off on the right foot. And here come the Current. They got Gibson, Norbrum, Johnson, Joe Freund, Blake, and Salmi out there on the line. Boston looking to send their guys out as well. Looks like it's going to be Katz, Hooker.
Hooker's been playing well in his new team here.
Good to see him back in the huddle there after he had that momentary injury there. Foster, Herskew, Baker, Clark, Tyler Chan out there to play defense. Katz and Hooker. as previously mentioned.
Thompson also has made a
Yes.
positive impact on his new squad.
Boston taking advantage of the players moving around the league.
Let's see where this pull goes. It's going to be his big outside in, I guess.
There we go.
Yep.
It's Foster again with the pull. It's going to touch down and bounce up and over Salmi. And it's going to roll to the back. Blake recovers here, gets it right up to Salmi.
Good help by
Under
Blake
a minute.
there.
And Foster with a huge layout D. Boston can take the lead.
And DC's hanging their heads a little bit right now. They got to get on defense.
We have a call.
Wow, that was a heck of a block underneath.
Foster just showing that he wants it.
He'd been setting that up for a while. The thrower didn't know how much momentum Foster had going into that little area.
And it's against the current, so Boston on the goal line here with 46 seconds left. Clark trying to find somebody. He has to dump it back.
Good defense so far from DC.
Herskew floats that one up. Hooker with a good grab. Hooker
They're working so hard here.
can't get it to the break side. 28 seconds left. And a penalty foul
big.
against Boston. I'll back him up.
28 seconds. Can Boston hold on for that long and get the score here, or will DC make a big play?
Hooker's got it. 25 yards out. That one floats. The bid.
Now he's
Herskew
free.
open to Chan. Chan lays out and he scores.
Wow.
What a play. Tyler Chan. And he leaves 20 seconds left. Boston with their first lead of the night, 17-16.
Until Rico Johnson took that chance there to get a block on the swing pass that floated up a little bit, but he delayed so long that the thrower then had a free throw next to get upfield. And then the focus on Chan to catch that with one hand going into the end zone, that made a huge play for Boston.
Yeah, but how do you not make that bid if you're Del Rico Johnson, too? He's got to go for it, you think,
Yeah,
right?
but he had to be going for it for a step earlier. He would have had to be already laying out instead of like reaching and then trying to lay out. And yeah, you try to go for it, but if you had set a mark there, perhaps it wouldn't have gone up that side and you would have forced them back this way.
Boston will send out Foster, Taylor, Clark, Hirschberger, Baker, McNaughton, and Thompson. DC, can't quite tell all the numbers here.
Well, that's a 4-point run there for Boston. It started with a hold to get to 14, and then a break to get to 15, a break to get to 16, and a break to get to 17.
8 scores in a quarter. We saw them do that at the tail end of the last season when they were blowing out Philadelphia in the last 2 games in the East.
8-3.
Short pull, so that'll benefit DC here. Norbum will pick it up.
Don't rush to pick it up. You don't have anybody downfield yet.
Now he's got it marked by Taylor. And it's a turn, and Boston can just run out the clock here.
No reason to even pick this up yet.
10 seconds. Boston picks it up. Just has to make one throw, and that'll do it. Clark has it. He doesn't have to make a throw. And Boston comes back down as much as 5.
Yeah.
And they win 17-16. What a finish here at DC. But I feel like I've said that more than once.
It's an incredible show for Boston to come back and win this game. DC let that out of their grasp. They had this game. And it was all about the errors that they made, both on a team level and an individual level late in the game. There's a couple turfs, there's a couple drops, there's a couple throws to nobody. And those don't happen if you're used to your teammates. But that's what the coaches were talking about early on before the game even started. This is the feeling out process. Unfortunately, even when you play well, the feeling out process of learning who your team is, it often entails errors. It often entails mistakes. And what matters is how you learn from that about your team and about yourself going forward. But for now, Whitecaps have won the opening match between DC and Boston. And the way that they did it, it's another note for the whole rest of the league where we can be down 4 in the fourth quarter. It doesn't make a difference. We can come back from that. A 4-point deficit with 3:35 to play. Yeah, we got that. We'll take care of it. We're already down at the beginning. We don't get any breaks in the first half. Not a problem. We'll take care of that in the fourth quarter. This is another thing where Boston just has their hold on this league.
So Boston goes on a 4-0 run to finish off the game with a win 17-16. Do you have a player of the game, Dusty?
That is a tough ask right now. I mean, I want to kind of say Thompson with that one throw that kind of broke it all open, but it relied on so many people for the Whitecaps to get through this game. They got a bunch of scores early and then late by different players. Chan kind of got more involved as it went on. McNaughton was involved from the beginning back through the end. But also, you could look at Jake Taylor, who was completing a lot of the – they had that grab, and then he had a lot of the cross-field passes that Boston relied on to get to the other side of the field and then get their scores. It's tough to pick one right now.
Well executed by Boston in that fourth quarter, really the whole second half. They made the adjustments, and it worked out for them. They improved to 1-0 on the early season. The Current fall to 0-1. Boston will head to Philadelphia tomorrow. So 2 1-0 teams going head-to-head, or first place in the Eastern Conference here early. That's a 12 p.m. start. Dusty and I will be on the call for that one. If you can't make it out to Philadelphia for that game, you should try to do it. It should be a nicer day than it was here tonight weather-wise, but we will have you here on MLU Live. The Current will be back in action next week, taking on the Spinners. Boston at Philly tomorrow, and then at New York the following week. But I think that's going to do it here for us tonight at the Catholic University of America Cardinal Stadium. Our final score, 17-16 Whitecaps over the Current. On behalf of Dusty Rhodes and everybody else here at the MLU, I'm Jeff Poster, and we'll see you tomorrow at Philadelphia.